Welcome back to Sleepless Mysteries. Tonight, we come to stand beneath two silent witnesses of the cosmos and three Atlas. The first, a world-long thought baron, has begun to whisper secrets through the dust and red rad rock. The second, a comet from beyond the stars, sweeps through our solar system, its journey shrouded in mystery. What if they are linked? What if the visitor from the void brought something not only strange, but alive? In the Jezero crater, ancient riverbeds once flowed with clear water, millions or billions of years ago. The Perseverance rover, exploring the Bright Angel Formation, returned a discovery that has left scientists startled: a rock named Chayava Falls bearing leopard spots. These aren't just speckled patterns, these are possible biosignatures, minerals like vivianite and greigite, arranged in ways on Earth that usually result from microbial life. The study, published in Nature, ranks it as one of the most compelling clues yet, that Mars may once have harbored microbes in its water-shaped past. Meanwhile, in our own sky, the interstellar comet 3I Atlas glides closer. Newly observed by a fleet of telescopes, it glows green, spewing gases like cyanide and nickel, defying expectations of normal cometary behavior. Its chemical signature deepens the mystery. Was it merely pulled from another star's outskirts, or does it carry something more exotic? Now, picture this: a cosmic intruder passing near Mars not long after ancient life might have thrived there. Could fragments, dust, or unusual compounds from Atlas have journeyed near or toward the red planet, leaving traces we are only now beginning to detect? Could the biosignatures in Martian rocks be linked to cosmic influences we barely understand? These are not leaps of fancy, but threads drawing a deeper tapestry. Mars, whispers of life preserved in rock. Atlas, whispers of alien chemistry carried light years across the galaxy. Both arrive at our doorstep almost as questions posed by the universe. Were we alone once or always? Did Mars breathe with microbial life? And could a comet from beyond our sun be connected somehow? You don't need images of red rocks or green comets to follow this path. Close your eyes if you wish. Imagine standing in the dust of Jezero, the sky burning in silent sunlight, while a comet, carrying stardust older than Earth, slides past, invisible and profound. Light fractures across its coma. Underneath your boots, a rock holds patterns that look like life. Time converges. Questions churn. Before we begin, if you haven't already, subscribe to Sleepless Mysteries so these journeys into the unknown will always find you. Tap the like button if this story chills you or draws you to wonder. And if you're still awake, share in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is right now. Now let Earth's noise soften. Let the desert plains of Jezero and the comet's silent trail become one. Because tonight, we follow not just the trek of a comet or the texture of a Martian rock, but the possibility that life, ancient and unseen, connects worlds we thought were separate. This is 3I Meets Mars. Did the alien comet bring signs of life? Unsolved mysteries for sleep. And it begins now. Introduction of 3I Atlas and the new Mars discovery side by side. When astronomers first caught sight of the interstellar comet 3I Atlas slicing across our skies, it seemed like a fleeting visitor, a cosmic wanderer with little to offer beyond its icy beauty. But as its chemical fingerprints were studied, strange details began to emerge. Carbon dioxide levels higher than expected, traces of organic molecules, the sort of chemistry that whispers of the ingredients necessary for life. At nearly the same time, NASA's Perseverance rover was scanning the rocks and sediments of Mars, sending back images of textures and mineral compositions no one had ever expected to find. The two discoveries, arriving so close together, began to form a kind of dialogue across space, a message from Mars and an echo from beyond our solar system. What makes these findings remarkable is not just their scientific weight, but the uncanny timing of their appearance. Mars has long been the stage upon which humanity projects its questions about life. Ancient astronomers tracked its red glow and built myths around its violent power, while modern missions have sought to pierce its dusty surface for answers. And now, as Perseverance drills into Martian rock and brings up patterns that look uncannily biological, a comet from another star system sails by carrying the same types of compounds. It is as though two voices, separated by unimaginable distances, suddenly began to speak in harmony. The possibility of life beyond Earth has always rested on evidence scattered across two domains: the local and the interstellar. On one side, Mars offers the possibility of fossilized microbes, a preserved record of something that may have lived in its ancient rivers and lakes. On the other, interstellar objects like 3I Atlas arrive like cosmic messengers, carrying chemical secrets from systems we will never visit. Together, they allow us to weave a larger story, one in which the building blocks of biology are not confined to Earth, and may even be far more common than we have dared to imagine. Consider what it means for two discoveries of such scope to arrive in our consciousness almost simultaneously. For centuries, our search for extraterrestrial life has been built upon speculation and absence. We looked to the stars and wondered if someone might be looking back. We sent radio signals, built great telescopes, and probed distant worlds, but answers always seemed just beyond reach. Now suddenly the silence is being interrupted, not by messages in language, but by patterns written into rock and ice. Mars gives us speckled minerals that form in the presence of water and biological activity. Atlas gives us carbon compounds and gases that suggest the chemistry of living systems. Neither is proof. Both, however, point to possibility. What makes this moment extraordinary is the bridge it builds between past speculation and present evidence. The ancient dreamers who studied the skies could only imagine that the heavens carried life's secrets. Philosophers debated whether life might exist on countless other worlds, but their arguments were untethered to data. Today, with robotic emissaries on Mars and telescopes trained on interstellar wanderers, we can finally confront those questions with evidence. And when two separate phenomena, one from our neighbor planet, one from the vast beyond, begin to converge on the same theme, it suggests we may be standing at the threshold of a profound revelation. The timing also sparks another kind of curiosity. Why now? Why, after decades of searching, are we receiving such suggestive findings in quick succession? Some scientists would argue it's simple probability. The more we look, the more we find. But for the human imagination, such coincidences resonate more deeply. They feel like alignments, as though the universe has chosen this moment to pull back the veil. History is filled with epochs defined by sudden bursts of discovery, eras where mysteries unraveled at once and altered our perception forever. This may be such an epoch where Mars and an alien comet together push us to rethink what we know about life's place in the cosmos. The red planet has always been a mirror for human curiosity. In its dry riverbeds and dusty basins, we see reflections of Earth's past, when our own world was young, turbulent, and ripe for the emergence of life. To find remnants of biological processes, there would not just suggest that Mars once lived. It would hint that life itself is not a rare accident, but a natural outcome of chemistry and water. Meanwhile, 3I Atlas extends that implication across light years. If its chemistry resembles the raw materials of life, then perhaps life's recipe is universal, scattered across galaxies, waiting only for the right conditions to assemble. The question is not just whether life exists elsewhere, but whether we have already glimpsed its fingerprints without realizing it. Could the speckled rocks Perseverance scans be fossils of something microbial, frozen in time for billions of years? Could the organic compounds in Atlas be the residue of worlds where biology once thrived, now scattered into space? The answers are hidden in data we are only beginning to decode. But the alignment of these findings opens the door to a narrative where Earth is not alone in carrying life's flame. For now, we stand with fragments, a rover's images of rocks, a comet's spectral lines, and the imagination to link them. Yet even fragments carry weight. They whisper to us of rivers that once ran across Mars, of icy bodies that wander between stars, and of chemistry that stubbornly repeats itself wherever conditions allow. Life, it seems, is less fragile than we once feared. Its signatures are subtle, but they persist, in rocks, in gases, and in the dust of interstellar travelers. The encounter of 3I Atlas and Mars's hidden signs is not proof, but it is a story, one that asks us to question our uniqueness. For the first time, we may be looking not just at isolated hints, but at a chorus of evidence across worlds. And if that chorus grows louder, it may one day tell us what humans have always longed to know: that life does not belong to Earth alone, but is written into the universe itself. The central mystery: could both discoveries point to life beyond Earth? When the discoveries from Mars and 3I Atlas are placed side by side, the question that inevitably emerges is both haunting and exhilarating. Could these two phenomena be pointing us toward the same answer, that life beyond Earth is not merely possible, but perhaps inevitable? It is a mystery that cuts across science, philosophy, and even the deepest myths humanity has carried for thousands of years. The very idea forces us to reframe our place in the cosmos. For if life once existed on Mars, and if the Comet 3 Atlas carries the chemistry necessary for biology, then Earth's story might not be unique. It might be just one verse in a universal song. The heart of the mystery lies in convergence. Mars is our neighbor, a planet that once had rivers, lakes, and perhaps even oceans. For decades, scientists have suspected that conditions there might once have supported microbial life. The Perseverance rover's recent detection of textures, minerals, and chemical signatures resembling those formed by biology on Earth is a tantalizing hint that Mars might have hosted living systems billions of years ago. On the other hand, 3I Atlas comes from far beyond our solar system, an interstellar traveler carrying compounds that mirror the building blocks of life. It represents a glimpse into alien chemistry, raw material forged under conditions we may never fully replicate on Earth. Alone, each finding would be fascinating but incomplete. Together, they create a pattern too compelling to ignore. This pattern speaks to one of the most enduring questions in science. Is life a rare accident, confined to Earth, or is it a natural process, emerging whenever the conditions are right? For centuries, we leaned toward the first possibility, believing Earth to be singular in its gift of life. But if Mars once lived, even on a microbial scale, then life may arise more readily than we thought. And if interstellar objects like Atlas carry life's chemical toolkit between star systems, the universe could be littered with opportunities for biology to take root. In this sense, both Mars and Atlas might be answering the same question from different directions. What makes this central mystery so difficult to solve is the nature of the evidence itself. Life leaves behind traces, but those traces are subtle and easily mimicked by geology or chemistry. On Mars, the speckled rock textures Perseverance uncovered could be biosignatures, but they could also be the result of purely mineralogical processes. Similarly, the carbon compounds on Atlas could be organic, but not necessarily biological. The line between life and non-life is razor thin when we are looking across planets and light years. Yet the fact that both discoveries align so closely in time and theme forces us to ask whether this is coincidence or whether we are finally beginning to hear the same story told in two languages. The mystery also has a profound philosophical dimension. For millennia, cultures around the world have imagined life among the stars. Ancient myths spoke of visitors from the heavens, gods descending in fiery chariots, and ancestors who came from beyond the sky. These tales, while not scientific, echo humanity's intuition that life is not limited to Earth. In our own age, science has taken up that mantle, turning myths into questions and questions into experiments. But what happens when the data begins to resemble the myths? When Mars suggests that life may once have existed, and a comet from another system brings with it life's potential seeds, we are forced to reckon with the possibility that humanity's oldest suspicions may hold truth. There is also the matter of timing. Both discoveries arrive at a moment when humanity is capable of understanding them. 1,000 years ago, no one would have had the technology to parse the mineralogy of Martian rocks or the chemistry of an interstellar comet. Today, however, we not only have the tools, but also the frameworks to ask the right questions. This alignment between discovery and comprehension is rare in history. It suggests that we are living in a transitional moment, one where humanity's grasp of the universe is beginning to expand beyond its cradle. The mystery, then, is not just scientific, it is existential. Could life exist elsewhere? And if it does, what form would it take? These are questions that go beyond the technical details of spectrographs and rover analyses. They strike at the heart of what it means to be human. If life is common, then Earth is not unique, but part of a vast family of living worlds. If Mars once lived and 3I Atlas carries life's ingredients, then we are not isolated. We are participants in a universal process. On the other hand, if these signs turn out to be illusions, if the minerals on Mars are merely geological quirks, and the organics on Atlas nothing more than chemical happenstance, then the mystery only deepens. for it would mean that life is rarer than we hope, a fragile flame flickering in an indifferent cosmos. The challenge is that both possibilities carry weight. If life is common, then the universe is richer than we dreamed. If life is rare, then our responsibility to preserve it becomes immeasurably greater. Either way, the discoveries of Mars and Atlas press upon us the urgency of exploration. We must dig deeper into Martian soil, return samples, and peer further into interstellar chemistry. Only then can we move from mystery to understanding. And yet, part of the allure of this question lies in its persistence as a mystery. Humanity thrives on the edge of the unknown. The mystery of life beyond Earth fuels our imagination, our science fiction, our art, and our drive to explore. It unites disciplines as different as geology and astronomy, theology and philosophy. The possibility that Mars and Atlas are both whispering the same truth, that life belongs not to one planet but to the cosmos, gives this mystery an almost poetic symmetry. Two separate discoveries linked by a single question. Are we alone? To answer that question, scientists now look at patterns across worlds. On Earth, life thrives in extremes, in boiling vents, acidic pools, and beneath glaciers. These analogs suggest that if Mars once had water and warmth, it could have nurtured microbes. Likewise, interstellar comets like Atlas may be carriers of these same conditions, traveling laboratories where chemistry becomes increasingly complex. The central mystery is not simply whether life exists elsewhere, but whether life is a cosmic imperative woven into the fabric of matter and energy. If so, then Mars and Atlas are not anomalies, but expected signposts pointing toward a universe teeming with potential. For now, the mystery remains open, suspended between evidence and interpretation. We have only hints, patterns in rock, chemical fingerprints in ice. But these hints speak to something larger, the possibility that Earth's story is not singular. If both Mars and Atlas are pointing to life, then the universe is not silent. It is alive, in ways we are only beginning to hear. And perhaps that is the most profound part of the mystery. It is not just about microbes on Mars or organics on a comet. It is about humanity's readiness to confront a universe where life is not an exception but a rule, where every star system may carry its own version of biology, and where our search for kinship extends not just across continents, but across galaxies. Mars and Atlas are chapters in this unfolding story. Whether they confirm life's existence or simply its possibility, they remind us that the universe is not barren. It is mysterious, fertile, and waiting to be understood. Perseverance is found at Cheyava Falls, oiled, dark, speckled textures. On the dusty surface of Mars, where winds carve ancient dunes and silence stretches across horizons, the Perseverance rover stumbled upon something both ordinary in appearance and extraordinary in implication. At a site known as Cheyava Falls, the rover's cameras and instruments revealed rocks that were not the barren, lifeless surfaces many expected, but instead covered with curious, oiled, dark, speckled textures. At first glance, these were nothing more than strange markings on stone. Yet to geologists and astrobiologists, they resembled patterns that on Earth often whisper of life, textures etched by the slow, invisible work of microbes. The rocks themselves glistened with a subtle sheen, as if stained by ink, mottled with dark spots against their sandy red backdrop. To the untrained eye, they were curious but unremarkable. But Perseverance is more than a camera on wheels. It is a mobile laboratory designed to interrogate the Martian surface with a suite of tools. Spectral analysis revealed that these rocks contain minerals like vivianite and greigite, both of which on Earth are closely associated with biological activity. Vivianite, a blue-green iron phosphate, often forms in oxygen-poor environments where microbial processes drive chemical changes. Greigite, an iron sulfide, is found in sediments where microbes thrive, particularly in watery or once watery conditions. To find such minerals on Mars clustered with those peculiar speckled textures was like finding a signature written in stone. For scientists, the excitement lay not in the certainty of life, but in the possibility. On Earth, oil-dark speckling on rocks often occurs where microbial mats have once existed. Over time, as the microbes die, they leave behind patterns of mineral deposits that mimic their growth. Could Mars have hosted something similar? Thin, microbial films clinging to rocks along ancient riverbeds, their chemical traces now frozen in time? Cheyava Falls, with its suggestive textures, forced scientists to revisit that question with renewed urgency. The site itself is significant. Chayava Falls sits in the Jezero crater, a region long believed to have held a lake billions of years ago. Rivers once flowed into it, carrying sediments and nutrients that could have provided fertile ground for microbial life. In fact, Jezero was chosen as Perseverance's landing site precisely because of its ancient hydrology. If Mars ever nurtured life, the crater's layered deposits would be one of the best places to look. And now, with Chayava Falls, the rover may have found exactly what astrobiologists have hoped for: rocks that look like they were shaped not only by water, but by life's hand. Still, the excitement comes with caution. Mars has fooled us before. In 1996, a meteorite found in Antarctica, believed to have come from Mars, carried structures that looked like fossilized microbes. The announcement electrified the world, but later studies suggested those structures could be explained by non-biological processes. Mars, it seems, is adept at imitating life even when none is present. Could Chayava Falls be another case of geological mimicry? Could minerals alone, shaped by water and chemistry, produce the same speckled textures we associate with microbes? The possibility cannot be dismissed. Yet, the alignment of textures and minerals at Chayava Falls is difficult to ignore. Vivianite and gragite do not typically appear together unless specific chemical conditions are met, conditions often driven by biology on Earth. Furthermore, the oil-dark appearance of the rocks is unusual for Martian geology, suggesting chemical processes that deviate from the norm. The combination of visual, chemical, and mineral evidence makes Chayava Falls stand apart from other Martian sites studied before. Imagine, for a moment, what these textures could represent. Billions of years ago, when Mars was warmer and wetter, rivers might have carved through Jezero crater. Along their banks, microbial mats, thin layers of life similar to those found in Earth's hot springs and tidal flats, could have thrived. These mats would have trapped sediments, influenced mineral formation, and left behind patterns in the rocks. Over time, as Mars dried and its atmosphere thinned, the microbes would have perished, but their imprints would remain. Today, Perseverance may be gazing at the ghostly remnants of those ancient mats, captured forever in the stone of Chayava Falls. For scientists, such a discovery would be revolutionary. Even the faintest evidence of past microbial life on Mars would transform our understanding of biology. It would mean that life is not unique to Earth, but arises wherever conditions allow. If microbes once lived on Mars, then life may be the rule, not the exception in the universe. And if that is true, the oil-dark speckles at Chayava Falls are not just mineral oddities, they are echoes of a time when Mars was alive. The implications ripple far beyond science. Humanity has long wondered whether we are alone. Philosophers, theologians, and dreamers have built entire cosmologies around the possibility of other worlds inhabited by life. To find even microbial traces on Mars would validate millennia of speculation. It would force us to confront the reality that life is not a miracle confined to Earth, but a phenomenon written into the fabric of the cosmos. Chayava Falls, humble though it may look, could be the stage upon which that revelation begins. Of course, skepticism is essential. Science thrives on doubt as much as on discovery. Some researchers argue that the minerals at Chayava Falls could form without biology under purely chemical conditions. For instance, hydrothermal systems, where water interacts with rock under heat and pressure, can produce gragite without microbes. Vivianite can precipitate in the absence of life if the right chemical ingredients are present. The textures themselves, the oil-dark speckling, could be the result of water erosion, oxidation, or other geological processes. Until samples are returned to Earth and studied under microscopes, the debate will remain unresolved. This is why Perseverance's mission includes preparing samples for a future Mars return mission. Tiny tubes filled with Martian rock and soil will eventually be sent back to Earth, where laboratories equipped with the most advanced instruments can scrutinize them. Only then will we know if the speckles at Chayava Falls are biological fossils or geological imposters. In this sense, Chayava Falls is not just a discovery, it is a challenge, a mystery demanding resolution. And yet, even in uncertainty, the site inspires awe. To look at those dark, speckled rocks is to imagine a time when Mars was not a cold desert, but a world with rivers, lakes, and perhaps a biosphere. It is to imagine microbes clinging to stones as water rushed past, altering the chemistry of minerals, leaving marks that would endure for billions of years. It is to see in the present a window into a lost Martian past, one that may have been more Earth-like than we ever thought possible. Chayava Falls reminds us that the search for life is not about dramatic revelations of alien creatures, but about subtle clues, patterns in rocks, minerals in unusual combinations, stains on stone that hid a deeper story. These are the breadcrumbs left for us across time, leading us toward an answer humanity has always sought. Whether they confirm life or not, the speckles at Chayava Falls expand our imagination. They tell us that Mars is not simply dead and silent, but layered with mysteries, waiting for us to read them. In the end, Perseverance's discovery is not about certainty, but about possibility. The oiled, dark speckled textures may or may not be evidence of ancient microbial life, but they are a reminder that Mars holds secrets still and that we are only beginning to uncover them. Chayava Falls, quiet and unassuming, has given us a glimpse of what might have been, a planet alive with rivers and microbes shaping its stones. And perhaps in that glimpse, we see not just Mars's past, but the larger truth of a universe where life may not be confined to one fragile world. Minerals linked to life, vivianite and greigite. When Perseverance's instruments scanned the Martian rocks at Chayava Falls and identified minerals like vivianite and greigite, the discovery sparked an immediate wave of intrigue. To a casual observer, these mineral names may seem obscure, merely entries in a geologist's catalog, but to astrobiologists, they carry extraordinary weight. On Earth, vivianite and greigite are not random geological curiosities. They are minerals that often form in the presence of life, or in conditions conducive to it. Their presence on Mars is like finding a familiar signature written in an alien hand, an indication that processes once active on the red planet may have mirrored those that nurtured biology here on Earth. Vivianite, an iron phosphate mineral, is known for its striking blue-green crystals that can shift in hue as they oxidize. What makes vivianite fascinating is where it tends to form, in environments low in oxygen, where microbial activity often plays a role in chemical cycles. On Earth, vivianite is commonly found in waterlogged soils, peat bogs, lake sediments, and even in archaeological sites where organic matter decays in the presence of iron. Its growth often results from microbial processes that alter local chemistry, pulling phosphate and iron together in ways that would not happen as readily without biology. When scientists saw hints of vivianite in Martian rock, the connection to these earthly analogs was impossible to ignore. Greigite, on the other hand, is an iron sulfide mineral with a metallic gray-black sheen. It is chemically similar to magnetite but carries sulfur in its structure, linking it to environments where sulfur cycling is prominent. On Earth, greigite often appears in sediments shaped by microbial life, particularly sulfate-reducing bacteria that thrive in oxygen-poor conditions. These microbes use sulfate in their metabolism, producing sulfide that reacts with iron to form greigite. The mineral has also attracted attention from origin of life researchers who see in its catalytic properties a possible stepping stone toward the chemistry of early biological systems. In hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, greigite can catalyze reactions between carbon dioxide and hydrogen, producing organic molecules that could serve as precursors to life. To find it on Mars raises the tantalizing question: did similar processes once occur there? The co-occurrence of vivianite and greigite at Chayava Falls is particularly provocative. Each mineral alone could be explained by non-biological processes. Together, they suggest a set of environmental conditions that closely resemble earthly habitats where microbes flourish. Imagine a time when Mars still had water flowing across its surface, carving rivers into Jezero Crater. In oxygen-poor sediments at the bottom of those rivers or lakes, microbial mats could have altered the local chemistry, driving the precipitation of vivianite. Nearby, sulfate-reducing microbes might have catalyzed reactions that led to greigite. Over billions of years, the water dried, the microbes perished, but the minerals remained, fossilized chemical echoes of a biosphere now long gone. This interpretation is not mere speculation. It is rooted in decades of Earth-based research. At Lake Baikal in Siberia, vivianite forms in sediments rich in decaying organic matter, signaling microbial involvement in phosphorus and iron cycles. In the Black Sea, greigite appears in oxygen-poor sediments shaped by sulfate-inducing bacteria. Even in peat bogs of Europe, vivianite crystals form where plant material decomposes under anaerobic conditions. In each case, these minerals point not just to geology, but to environments where life is active or where life's chemistry alters the mineral record. To find them together on Mars suggests a similar interplay may once have occurred. But caution tempers enthusiasm. Minerals are slippery storytellers, capable of multiple interpretations. Vivianite can also form abiotically if phosphate-rich waters interact with iron without any biological input. Greigite, too, can precipitate in hydrothermal systems where sulfur and iron coexist, with no microbes required. The challenge for scientists is to distinguish between minerals as mere chemical byproducts and minerals as biosignatures, direct or indirect traces of life's presence. In this sense, vivianite and greigite at Chayava Falls are not proof, but they are clues. And in the scientific search for extraterrestrial life, clues are often the only currency available. What makes these particular clues powerful is the way they fit into a larger puzzle. Mars has shown us dried-up riverbeds, layered sediments, and ancient deltas, all signs of a watery past. Organic molecules have been detected before, though in ambiguous forms. Now, at Chayava Falls, we see minerals that, on Earth, consistently appear alongside biology. None of these findings alone is definitive, but together they form a chorus that grows harder to dismiss. Each piece of evidence strengthens the case that Mars once hosted the right conditions for life. Beyond their role as biosignatures, vivianite and greigite are also significant for what they might tell us about the origin of life itself. Some researchers believe that iron-sulfur minerals like greigite played a critical role in the earliest stages of biology. In the heat and pressure of Earth's primordial hydrothermal vents, greigite may have catalyzed the synthesis of simple organic molecules, bridging the gap between chemistry and biology. If greigite exists on Mars, it raises the possibility that similar prebiotic chemistry occurred there, whether or not it ultimately produced living systems. Vivianite, meanwhile, is linked to phosphorus, a key element in DNA, RNA, and ATP, the molecules that store and transmit life's energy. Its presence suggests that Mars may have had not only water, but also the raw materials for biochemistry. In this light, the minerals are more than just remnants of ancient processes. They are potential witnesses to a time when Mars was chemically alive, if not biologically alive. They remind us that life does not appear in a vacuum. It requires scaffolding, a network of minerals and molecules that create the right conditions for complexity to emerge. By finding vivianite and greigite, Perseverance may have uncovered part of that scaffolding, preserved in the Martian rock record. The implications ripple outward into broader questions of cosmic life. If Mars, a planet so close and yet so starkly different from Earth, once nurtured the chemistry of life, then how many other planets and moons might do the same? If minerals like vivianite and greigite are forming naturally wherever water, iron, and phosphorus interact, then the conditions for prebiotic chemistry could be widespread. In that sense, Mars is not just a case study. It is a mirror reflecting the universe's potential. And yet, the mystery deepens. Are we seeing the aftermath of a biology that once thrived, or only the ghostly mimicry of non-living processes? This question will not be resolved until the samples Perseverance collects are returned to Earth. Only under the scrutiny of laboratories here can scientists examine the textures, isotopes, and structures of these minerals closely enough to distinguish life's signature from geology's. Until then, we hover at the edge of discovery, caught between what might be and what is. Still, even in uncertainty, the emotional weight of the discovery is undeniable. The thought that minerals now locked in Martian stone may have once been touched by life, or by the chemistry that leads to life, is profound. They are like fossils without bones, whispers without voices, yet they carry a resonance that reaches across billions of years. In their crystalline lattices and chemical bonds, vivianite and greigite may hold the key to answering humanity's oldest question: are we alone? For now, they remain enigmatic, perched between science and speculation. But in those oil-dark speckles at Chayava Falls, in the shimmer of vivianite and the metallic gleam of greigite, we glimpse the possibility that Mars was once more than a barren desert. We glimpse a world where water flowed, where chemistry danced, and where perhaps life briefly found a foothold. And in that glimpse lies the promise that Earth is not the only world to have carried life's flame, that the universe itself may be alive with hidden stories, waiting for us to read them in the language of minerals. Why scientists are calling this the clearest evidence of ancient microbial life yet there. When Perseverance sent back its data from Chayava Falls, scientists did not rush to declare life on Mars in bold headlines. They have been cautious, shaped by decades of false starts and ambiguous signals. But behind the caution lies a quiet thrill. Many researchers are admitting that what the rover has uncovered may be the clearest evidence yet that Mars once harbored microbial life. Not proof. Proof requires samples returned to Earth and examined under microscopes, but evidence so compelling that it forces us to reconsider Mars not as a dead planet, but as one that once pulsed with chemical and possibly biological activity. Why this discovery? Why here at Chayava Falls? The answer lies in the unusual convergence of factors, the textures, the minerals, the chemistry, and the context. Each alone could be explained away as geology. Together, they weave a narrative that is difficult to ignore. The first factor is the texture of the rocks themselves. The oil-dark speckled patterns identified by Perseverance resemble microbial biofilms seen on Earth. Biofilms are communities of microbes that grow on surfaces, clinging together in slimy mats and leaving behind stains or mineral traces. On Earth, they thrive in environments ranging from riverbeds to cave walls to deep-sea vents. Over time, as biofilms grow and die, they leave imprints that become fossilized into the rock record. When scientists looked at the images from Chayava Falls, they immediately noted the eerie similarity to these microbial signatures. Mars has fooled us before, but never with patterns quite this convincing. Then there are the minerals, vivianite and greigite, both deeply tied to biological processes on Earth. Vivianite often forms in oxygen-poor environments, where microbial decay alters chemistry. Greigite, meanwhile, is strongly linked to microbial activity in sulfur-rich sediments. The discovery of both minerals together in the same rocks increases the likelihood that they are not merely geological accidents. It is the sort of pairing that, on Earth, would almost always suggest microbial influence. Chemical analysis adds another layer. The spectral fingerprints from Perseverance's instruments suggest organic compounds may be present alongside the minerals. Though organic does not necessarily mean biological, it can simply mean carbon-based. The association of organics with vivianite and greigite strengthens the biological case. On Earth, organic molecules embedded in mineral matrices are hallmarks of fossilized microbial communities. Finally, context matters. Chayava Falls sits within Jezero Crater, a site chosen because of its ancient river delta. Billions of years ago, water flowed into this crater, depositing sediments rich in nutrients. If Mars ever hosted life, a river delta is precisely where we would expect to find it. Deltas trap organic material, create diverse microenvironments, and provide the kind of chemical gradients that microbes exploit. To find possible biosignatures here in this geologically favorable setting is not random. It is exactly where the evidence should be if life ever existed. This alignment of texture, mineralogy, chemistry, and context is why so many scientists are cautiously calling this the clearest evidence of ancient microbial life on Mars yet. It is not one line of evidence, but several, pointing in the same direction. Skeptics, of course, remain vocal. They argue that non-biological processes could still explain the findings. Mars is geologically strange, with processes we may not fully understand. Hydrothermal systems, volcanic activity, and chemical weathering can all produce minerals and textures that mimic biology. Without physical samples, skeptics warn, we cannot rule out geology's trickery. But even skeptics admit that the alignment of factors at Chayava Falls is remarkable. It may not be conclusive, but it is unprecedented. One of the reasons scientists are cautious is the history of Martian life claims. In 1976, the Viking landers carried experiments designed to detect microbial metabolism in Martian soil. One experiment gave results consistent with biology, but others contradicted it, leading to decades of debate. In 1996, a Martian meteorite called LH840001 was found in Antarctica. Inside were tiny structures that looked like fossilized microbes. President Bill Clinton even gave a speech about it, declaring that humanity may have found evidence of life on another world. but later studies suggested the structures could be explained by non-biological chemistry. Each time, hope was followed by disappointment, leaving scientists wary of overstatement. Cheyava Falls, however, differs from these earlier cases in a critical way. It is not a single ambiguous signal. It is multiple signals, consistent with one another, emerging from the very place where life would be most likely to have existed. Viking found unusual chemistry, but no clear context. The meteorite offered intriguing shapes, but without environmental data. Cheyava Falls offers a convergence of setting, minerals, and textures that together tell a story. That is why scientists are more willing this time to call it the clearest evidence yet. The discovery also resonates with what we know about Earth's earliest life. Microbial mats on our planet date back more than 3.5 billion years. These mats, preserved in rocks in South Africa and Australia, show speckled textures and mineral associations similar to what Perseverance has seen. If Earth's earliest biosignatures look like Cheyava Falls, then the Martian site may indeed be showing us a parallel chapter in planetary history. The resemblance is uncanny, as though Mars is holding up a mirror to Earth's deep past. The implications, if confirmed, are staggering. If life once existed on Mars, then life is not a miracle confined to Earth. It is a natural process, emerging whenever conditions allow. And if microbial life arose on both Earth and Mars, two neighboring planets in one solar system, then the odds that life exists elsewhere in the universe skyrocket. The galaxy may be teeming with microbial worlds, waiting only for the right instruments to reveal their signatures. This possibility also reshapes how we think about our own existence. For centuries, humans believed Earth was the center of the cosmos, unique and singular. Science has steadily dismantled that view. Earth is one planet among billions, orbiting one star among hundreds of billions. Yet life seemed to remain our last uniqueness. If Mars once hosted life, even simple microbes, then that uniqueness collapses. Life is not special, it is expected. That shift would be as profound as any in human history. Still, the burden of proof is immense. To declare life on Mars would be one of the greatest discoveries of all time. It cannot rest on suggestive textures or promising minerals alone. That is why Perseverance's mission to collect samples for eventual return to Earth is so critical. In the labs of the future, scientists will probe these rocks at the atomic level, searching for isotopic ratios, molecular structures, and microscopic fossils that can confirm biology beyond doubt. Only then will the claim move from evidence to proof. Until then, Cheyava Falls stands as a symbol of possibility. The oil-dark speckles, the vivianite, the greigite, they are puzzle pieces laid out on Mars's red surface, inviting us to fit them together. Whether they form the picture of life or merely mimic it, they represent the closest we have come yet to answering a question as old as humanity itself. Are we alone? Perhaps what makes this discovery so powerful is not just the evidence itself, but the way it engages the imagination. Scientists are trained to be cautious, to hedge their claims, but even they admit that something about Cheyava Falls feels different, feels closer. It is not just data. It is a glimpse into a past where Mars may have been alive, and in that glimpse lies a promise that one day, perhaps soon, we will hold in our hands the proof that life is not confined to Earth, but is a cosmic phenomenon written into the rocks of other worlds. This is why scientists are calling it the clearest evidence yet. Not because it is final, but because it is compelling, consistent, and convergent. It is the kind of evidence that tilts the scales, that pushes the debate further toward life. It is the kind of evidence that makes us wonder not if we will find life elsewhere, but when. And when that moment comes, when the final piece of proof falls into place, Cheyava Falls may be remembered as the first true window into a universe alive with possibility. What a biosignature is and why it matters. The search for life beyond Earth often revolves around a single term, biosignature. It is a word that sounds clinical, but behind it lies one of the most profound quests humanity has ever undertaken. A biosignature is, in the simplest sense, any evidence, chemical, physical, or morphological, that indicates the presence of past or present life. On Earth, biosignatures surround us constantly. The oxygen we breathe is a planetary-scale biosignature, produced and maintained by photosynthetic organisms. The organic molecules in our soils and sediments are biosignatures. Fossils, microbial mats, isotopic patterns in carbon, all are signatures left behind by living systems. The challenge is learning to recognize them elsewhere, on planets where life may have left traces in forms we can barely recognize. Why biosignatures matter is simple. They are the only tangible way we can confirm life beyond Earth. No telescope will show us alien civilizations. No rover will stumble across a Martian giraffe grazing in a crater. The life we seek elsewhere, if it exists, is most likely microbial, subtle, and ancient. Its traces will not be dramatic, but chemical and mineralogical, tiny hints hidden in rocks, soils, or atmospheres. Without biosignatures, the question, are we alone, remains speculative. With them, we gain evidence. To understand the power of biosignatures, consider how they operate on Earth. One of the strongest is oxygen in the atmosphere. Oxygen is a highly reactive gas. Left on its own, it would vanish as it binds with other elements. Its persistence in Earth's air is possible only because living organisms continually replenish it through photosynthesis. For a distant observer studying Earth from light years away, the detection of abundant oxygen in our atmosphere would be a telltale biosignature, suggesting the presence of biology. This is why space telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope are designed to analyze exoplanet atmospheres, to search for gases like oxygen, methane, or combinations of chemicals that are difficult to sustain without life. On Mars, the biosignatures we seek are not atmospheric but geological. Microbes, if they ever lived there, would have left behind mineral patterns, isotopic ratios, or organic molecules locked in rock. The oil-dark speckles at Chayava Falls are one such candidate. On Earth, similar textures are often left behind by microbial mats. Minerals like vivianite and greigite are another. Their association with life in terrestrial environments makes them compelling Martian biosignatures. If we can confirm that these minerals form through biological processes rather than geology alone, we would be looking at direct evidence of Martian microbes. The importance of biosignatures is magnified by the fact that life is both resilient and ephemeral. Microbes can survive in extreme environments, from boiling hydrothermal vents to icy Antarctic lakes. Yet once they die, their soft bodies vanish quickly, leaving little behind. What persists are their traces, the chemical scars of their activity, the minerals shaped by their presence, the organic molecules they once built. In essence, biosignatures are fossils without bones, the ghostly remnants of processes long gone. They are fragile, easily obscured, but they're all we have to connect the present with the deep biological past of other worlds. But biosignatures matter for another reason beyond detection. They help us define life itself. Biology is not just about cells and DNA, it is about processes. A biosignature is, by definition, a process made visible, whether in the form of gas exchange, chemical cycling, or mineral alteration. To search for biosignatures is to search for the fingerprints of metabolism, the quiet transactions of life with its environment. On Mars, that might mean evidence of microbes pulling energy from minerals, altering iron into vivianite or sulfur into greigite. On an exoplanet, it might mean gases accumulating in the air that could only exist with biological replenishment. The search for biosignatures also forces us to confront a humbling truth. Life may not always look like life as we know it. Our concept of a biosignature is shaped by Earth. We expect oxygen because that is our biosignature. We expect carbon-based organics because that is how life here is built. But what if alien life relies on entirely different chemistry? What if its biosignatures are ones we do not yet understand? This is why scientists emphasize the importance of context. A biosignature cannot be judged in isolation. It must be examined alongside the environment in which it occurs. For instance, methane on Earth is often biological, produced by microbes. But methane can also be generated abiotically through volcanic or hydrothermal processes. To call methane a biosignature, we must show that the context makes a biological origin more likely than a geological one. This is precisely what makes the findings at Chayava Falls so intriguing. It is not just that Perseverance found minerals like vivianite and greigite. It is that they were found in a setting, a dried-up river delta, where water once flowed, nutrients were deposited, and microbes could have thrived. The context strengthens the biosignature claim. Without context, the minerals could be dismissed as geological quirks. With context, they become part of a coherent story of possible life. Biosignatures matter not only for what they tell us about other worlds, but also for what they tell us about our own. The earliest biosignatures on Earth date back more than 3.5 billion years, long before the fossil record of plants and animals. Stromatolites, layered rock structures built by microbial mats, are some of the oldest. They remind us that life's history is not one of grandeur, but of patience, with microbes quietly shaping the planet for billions of years. If we hope to detect life elsewhere, we must learn to read these subtle traces as well as we read dinosaur bones or ancient skeletons. The search for biosignatures is not without controversy. Some scientists argue that the definition of a biosignature is too broad, risking false positives. Others argue it is too narrow, blinding us to unfamiliar forms of life. This tension is part of the discipline's strength. It keeps researchers cautious, demanding multiple lines of evidence before declaring a discovery. A true biosignature in the scientific sense must pass stringent tests. It must be consistent with biology, difficult to explain by non-biological processes, and supported by contextual evidence. Only then does it rise above ambiguity. Why does this matter so much? Because the confirmation of life beyond Earth would be one of the most transformative discoveries in human history. It would reshape philosophy, religion, and science. It would redefine humanity's place in the cosmos, showing us not as a singular miracle, but as part of a larger tapestry of life. Biosignatures are the gateway to that discovery. Without them, we are left with speculation. With them, we inch closer to certainty. Consider the broader implications. If we confirm biosignatures on Mars, it would mean life arose independently twice in one solar system. That would suggest that life is common throughout the universe, emerging wherever conditions allow. It would mean that planets orbiting distant stars, many of which we now know harbor water and atmospheres, could also be alive. Suddenly, the galaxy would no longer feel empty but inhabited, not by intelligent civilizations necessarily, but by a multitude of microbial worlds, each with its own story. Even if biosignatures turn out to be false positives, the search itself drives science forward. It forces us to refine our instruments, sharpen our definitions, and expand our imagination. It deepens our understanding of planetary processes, both biological and geological. Every ambiguous result, every debate about whether a signal is life or not, brings us closer to knowing what we should truly look for. And perhaps most importantly, biosignatures matter because they connect us emotionally to the cosmos. When Perseverance beams back images of speckled rocks, we lean forward not because the speckles are beautiful, but because they might be whispers of life. When telescopes scan exoplanets for oxygen and methane, we watch with hope because those gases could be the breath of alien biospheres. Biosignatures matter because they are not just scientific markers. They are symbols of possibility, of kinship across space. In the end, a biosignature is more than a trace of life. It is a bridge between worlds, a sign that the processes we know here on Earth may echo across the universe. It matters because it transforms the cosmos from a backdrop into a community, from a silent expanse into a realm where life may be written into the very fabric of matter. Whether in the speckles at Chayava Falls, the minerals beneath Martian soil, or the gases of distant exoplanets, biosignatures are the keys to answering the oldest question we know: are we alone? And as scientists sift through the data, debating what is biology and what is geology, one thing is clear. The search for biosignatures is not just a scientific pursuit, but a human one. It is our way of reaching outward, of asking if the miracle of life is ours alone, or if it is the universe's most enduring story. Earth analogs: how life signatures on Earth help us interpret Mars. When Perseverance revealed the oil-dark speckled textures of Martian rocks at Chayava Falls, paired with minerals like vivianite and greigite, scientists did not analyze them in a vacuum. Instead, they turned to Earth, to lakes, bogs, ocean floors, and deserts, where similar signatures are produced by life. This is the power of Earth analogs, using environments and processes here at home to interpret what we see on distant worlds. Without these analogs, Mars would remain inscrutable, its geology a puzzle without a key. With them, the red planet becomes legible, its rocks echoing patterns we already understand from our own planet's deep past. An Earth analog is any place or process on our planet that mimics conditions elsewhere in the solar system. Scientists study these environments not only to understand how life adapts to extremes, but also to learn what kinds of biosignatures life leaves behind. From the icy waters of Antarctica to the hot springs of Yellowstone, these sites provide a library of examples. When Mars presents us with strange mineral assemblages or unusual textures, researchers compare them to Earth analogs to ask, could life have made this? Or could it be explained by non-living processes alone? Take stromatolites, for instance. These layered rock structures, some more than 3.5 billion years old, were built by microbial mats trapping sediments in shallow waters. Found in places like Shark Bay in Australia, stromatolites show how simple microbial communities can leave lasting signatures in rock. When scientists look at the speckled textures at Chayava Falls, they recall the way microbial mats on Earth create patterns, stains, and mineralized crusts. Without stromatolites and other analogs, the Martian speckles might look meaningless. With them, they gain context as potential biosignatures. Another crucial analog comes from iron-rich environments. Vivianite on Earth often forms in wetlands, lake bottoms, or peat bogs where organic matter decomposes. In these oxygen-poor settings, microbes play a central role in moving phosphorus and iron around, precipitating vivianite crystals. The vivid blue-green mineral is thus not just a geological curiosity, but a marker of biological influence. When Perseverance identified vivianite on Mars, scientists immediately compared it to these terrestrial sites. Could similar microbial processes once have occurred in Martian lakes and rivers? Greigite also has strong Earth analogs. On our planet, it often appears in sediments shaped by sulfate-reducing bacteria. In the Black Sea, for example, greigite forms in layers where oxygen vanishes and microbes use sulfur in their metabolism. Hydrothermal vents at the bottom of Earth's oceans, too, are rich in greigite. These vents are particularly important because they are thought to resemble the environments where life on Earth may have first arisen. The fact that Mars contains greigite suggests it may have hosted similar chemical conditions, if not biology itself. Without studying Earth's vents, bogs, and seas, we would have no framework for interpreting what greigite means on Mars. Antarctica is another powerful analog. Beneath its ice sheets lie subglacial lakes, dark, cold, and isolated for millions of years. Yet microbial life thrives in these extreme environments, leaving behind chemical and isotopic signatures in the sediments. Lake Vostok, one of the most famous, has been sealed under ice for more than 15 million years, yet it harbors evidence of microbial activity. Mars today is cold and dry, but beneath its surface may lie aquifers or briny pockets of water. By studying Antarctica, scientists gain insight into how life might persist under similar Martian conditions. Even deserts on Earth, like the Atacama in Chile, provide analogs. The Atacama is one of the driest places on the planet, with soils rich in salts and subject to intense radiation. Microbes there survive by clinging to rocks, hiding in tiny cracks where moisture condenses. Their biosignatures are subtle, minute chemical changes in minerals, traces of organic molecules, faint patterns visible only under microscopes. The Atacama shows us how life leaves faint fingerprints in harsh conditions. When Perseverance studies Martian soils and rocks, scientists use the Atacama as a model for what to expect in equally hostile environments. Isotopic ratios also provide a critical analog. On Earth, living organisms prefer lighter isotopes of carbon, sulfur, and nitrogen. This creates distinctive patterns in the rock record. For example, ancient microbial life left carbon isotope ratios in Earth's oldest rocks that cannot be explained by abiotic processes. If Mars samples show similar isotopic shifts, it would be strong evidence for biology. But without Earth's isotopic biosignatures as a baseline, such Martian ratios would mean little. The value of Earth analogs goes beyond specific minerals or isotopes. They also teach us humility. Many features that once looked biological on Earth turned out to have geological explanations, and vice versa. Studying analogs helps us refine our criteria, distinguishing between true biosignatures and false positives. For instance, certain chemical reactions in volcanic systems can mimic the organic compounds produced by microbes. Without studying both living and non-living systems on Earth, we would risk misinterpreting Mars entirely. Earth analogs also remind us of life's resilience. Microbes on Earth thrive in boiling hot springs, in acidic rivers, in deep underground rock, and even in nuclear waste sites. They metabolize iron, sulfur, methane, and even arsenic. Each of these adaptations leaves behind biosignatures: minerals altered, gases produced, isotopes fractionated. If life could survive in such extremes here, why not on Mars billions of years ago, when conditions were milder and water more abundant? By cataloging life's signatures in Earth's extremes, we expand our ability to recognize them on Mars. Consider the Dead Sea, one of the saltiest bodies of water on Earth. Life there is sparse, but microbes adapt by altering the chemistry of surrounding sediments. Mars's surface is similarly salty, its soils rich in perchlorates and sulfates. The Dead Sea teaches us how life might survive and leave traces in such hostile brines. Or look at Yellowstone's hot springs, where vivid microbial mats create brilliant colors. Each pigment, each mineral deposit is a biosignature. Mars may not have hot springs today, but ancient hydrothermal systems could have hosted similar mats. The history of science shows how essential analogs are. When scientists first studied stromatolites in Australia, some dismissed them as odd geological formations. Only by comparing them to modern microbial mats in Shark Bay did researchers confirm their biological origin. The same lesson applies to Mars. Without analogs, biosignatures remain ambiguous. With them, we can place Martian discoveries into a broader biological context. This is why Earth analogs matter so profoundly. They give us a dictionary to translate Mars's language. When Perseverance finds a mineral, we can ask, where does this appear on Earth? When it sees a texture, we can ask, have microbes produced something like this before? Without analogs, Mars is a set of riddles. With them, it becomes a story, one that may include life. The search for Earth analogs also expands beyond Mars. They prepare us for studying icy moons like Europa and Enceladus, where subsurface oceans may harbor life. They prepare us for interpreting exoplanets, where telescopes will soon detect atmospheric gases. In each case, Earth provides the baseline. It shows us what life can do, and therefore what we should look for. Ultimately, Earth analogs matter because they anchor the extraordinary in the familiar. The speckled rocks at Chayava Falls might seem alien, but when compared to microbial mats in Earth's rivers and lakes, they take on new meaning. The minerals vivianite and gragite might seem exotic, but when linked to earthly microbes, they become compelling. Analogs remind us that Mars is not an entirely foreign world, but one that may share echoes of Earth's history. If Mars once had life, its biosignatures will likely resemble Earth's, because the same chemistry governs both planets. Earth analogs are therefore not just helpful, they are essential. They are our guides as we peer across millions of miles, searching for faint whispers of biology in Martian stone. And if one day we confirm that those whispers are real, it will be because we learned first to listen at home. Geological mimicry, how non-living processes can imitate biosignatures. The greatest challenge in the search for life beyond Earth is not the absence of evidence, but the danger of misinterpretation. Nature is a skilled imitator. Rocks, minerals, and chemical reactions can produce patterns and signatures that look uncannily like the traces left behind by living organisms. This phenomenon, known as geological mimicry, is at the heart of every debate about Martian discoveries. At Chayava Falls, Perseverance revealed oil-dark speckled textures and minerals like vivianite and gragite, signatures that on Earth often signal microbial activity. Yet scientists hesitate because they know Mars may be playing a trick. Geological mimicry means that even the clearest signs of life can sometimes emerge from processes that are entirely non-biological. To understand geological mimicry, we need only look at Earth itself. Our planet is full of features that, at first glance, appear to be biological. In the 19th century, geologists found strange layered structures in ancient rocks that looked like fossils of early life. For decades, they were debated. Only later did scientists confirm that some were true stromatolites, built by microbial mats, while others were merely mineral formations shaped by water and sedimentation. The lesson was clear. Morphology or shape alone cannot prove life. Rocks can lie. On Mars, the problem is even more acute. Without microscopes to peer into cells, without DNA to sequence, we must rely on indirect signatures, textures, minerals, and chemistry. But these are exactly the kinds of things geology can mimic. For example, the speckled textures at Chayava Falls might resemble microbial biofilms, yet similar patterns can emerge from purely physical processes like oxidation, weathering, or crystallization. Water moving through cracks can deposit minerals in ways that create spots, streaks, and stains eerily similar to those left by biology. Consider vivianite. On Earth, it is often tied to microbial decay in oxygen-poor environments, but vivianite can also form abiotically if iron and phosphate happen to be present in water under the right conditions. Similarly, greigite, though linked to microbial activity, can also precipitate in hydrothermal systems without life's involvement. Mars has a long history of volcanic activity and hydrothermal alteration. It is entirely possible that these minerals at Chayava Falls were forged by geological processes, not biology. Even organic molecules, long considered hallmarks of life, are not immune to mimicry. On Earth, most organics come from biological sources, but in space, organic molecules can form without life at all. Interstellar dust clouds are full of complex organics built by radiation and chemistry. Meteorites that fall to Earth often contain amino acids and hydrocarbons, despite having never hosted biology. Mars, too, could generate organics through geological processes, especially in the presence of carbon dioxide, water, and volcanic activity. Finding organics on Mars, then, is exciting but not definitive. They may whisper of life or of chemistry alone. Isotopes, too, can be deceptive. Life prefers lighter isotopes of elements like carbon and sulfur, leaving behind distinctive ratios in rocks. But geological processes such as volcanic degassing, hydrothermal circulation, or photochemical reactions in the atmosphere can also fractionate isotopes in ways that mimic biology. A Martian rock showing a biological carbon isotope signature might instead be the product of ancient volcanic chemistry. One of the most famous examples of geological mimicry comes from the Martian meteorite ALH 840001. Discovered in Antarctica in 1984, it contained tiny structures that looked like fossilized microbes, along with organic molecules and unusual minerals. In 1996, NASA scientists announced it as possible evidence of ancient Martian life, and the news electrified the world. But over time, alternative explanations emerged. The structures could be mineral artifacts, the organics could come from non-biological chemistry. The minerals could form in the absence of life. What once seemed like a triumph of discovery became a cautionary tale. Mars had imitated biology too well. The Viking landers of the 1970s provide another cautionary example. One of Viking's experiments designed to detect metabolism produced results consistent with microbial activity in Martian soil. But subsequent experiments contradicted those results, and most scientists now believe the signals came from reactive chemistry in the soil, not life. Again, Mars had played the mimic. This is why scientists stress the importance of multiple lines of evidence. A single signature, a texture, a mineral, an organic compound, can always be explained by geology. But if many different biosignatures converge, pointing in the same direction, the case for life strengthens. At Chayava Falls, the convergence of speckled textures, vivianite, greigite, and possible organics is compelling. Yet skeptics remind us that convergence does not guarantee biology. Complex geological systems can produce overlapping signals that resemble life. The trick is separating the real from the imitation. Geological mimicry also raises deeper questions about the very nature of life. If non-living processes can so closely resemble biological ones, where do we draw the line? Is it possible that life itself emerged from these imitative processes? Some origin of life theories suggest that minerals like greigite and other iron-sulfur compounds catalyzed the first biochemical reactions. In this view, geology did not just mimic life, it birthed it. If so, the distinction between biosignature and geosignature may be more porous than we think. This blurring of boundaries makes the search on Mars both thrilling and frustrating. Scientists know that declaring life based on ambiguous evidence would damage credibility. Yet they also know that dismissing every signal as mimicry risks overlooking the truth. The balance is delicate. At Chayava Falls, researchers tread carefully, acknowledging that the speckles and minerals could be geology's tricks, while also admitting that they could be life's remnants. The issue of mimicry extends beyond Mars. On icy moons like Europa and Enceladus, where plumes of water jet into space, scientists search for biosignatures in the chemistry of the water. But hydrothermal systems there could generate organics and isotopic ratios without life. On exoplanets, telescopes will one day detect atmospheric gases like oxygen or methane. Yet even those can be produced abiotically. A planet's oxygen, for instance, could arise from photochemical splitting of water under intense stellar radiation, not photosynthesis. Again, mimicry complicates interpretation. This is why biosignature science emphasizes context. A texture by itself proves nothing, but a texture in a river delta alongside water-rich minerals and organics gains credibility. An organic molecule in isolation is ambiguous, but organics in combination with isotopic ratios and mineral evidence are more persuasive. Context helps separate life from mimicry, reducing the risk of false positives. But perhaps mimicry itself carries a hidden message. If geology can produce so many lifelike signatures, it suggests that the boundary between living and non-living is thin. The processes that make life possible may not be rare, but universal, embedded in the chemistry of planets. In that sense, mimicry is not just a nuisance, it is a clue. It tells us that the chemistry of life is not exotic but natural, arising wherever the conditions are right. Mars may or may not have produced microbes, but the fact that its rocks mimic biology so well suggests it came close. The danger of mimicry also underscores the importance of returning samples to Earth. Perseverance's mission to cache Martian rocks for future retrieval is crucial. In Earth's laboratories, scientists can study the samples with tools far more sensitive than any rover could carry. They can analyze isotopes to unprecedented precision, scan minerals at the atomic level, and search for microfossils. Only then can we decisively separate biology from geology. Until those samples arrive, mimicry will remain the shadow over every Martian discovery. For now, Chayava Falls embodies the paradox of geological mimicry. Its speckled rocks, vivianite, and greigite whisper of microbes, yet they may be nothing more than geology's echoes. To scientists, that uncertainty is not a failure, but the essence of exploration. The line between life and non-life has always been blurry. On Mars, it may be blurrier still, but in that blur lies the possibility of revelation, that one day, among the mimics, we will find the true voice of life. In the end, geological mimicry matters because it keeps us honest. It forces science to demand rigorous proof, to resist easy answers, and to appreciate the subtlety of planetary processes. It also enriches the mystery, reminding us that even in the absence of life, planets can produce beauty and complexity that resemble it. Mars may yet reveal its secrets, but until then, every speckle, every mineral, every organic trace must be tested against the possibility of mimicry. Only then can we say with certainty whether we are reading life's story or geology's imitation of it. 3I Atlas comet chemistry, enriched in CO2 and organic compounds. When the interstellar comet 3I Atlas streaked into the solar system, scientists scrambled to study it. Unlike ordinary comets born in the frozen outer reaches of our own planetary system, 3I Atlas came from far beyond, a messenger traveling between the stars. Its chemistry carried with it secrets of alien worlds, forged under conditions utterly unlike our own. What telescopes and instruments revealed was startling. This comet was unusually enriched in carbon dioxide and complex organic compounds, the very same raw ingredients that on Earth are tied to life. For astrobiologists, it was as though a stranger from another galaxy had walked into the room carrying a familiar recipe book. Comets are often called time capsules. In our solar system, they preserve ices and dust from its earliest days, untouched for billions of years. When they pass near the sun, their frozen shells evaporate into tails of gas and dust, allowing us to analyze their chemistry. In the past 2 decades, we have learned that comets are rich in water, carbon compounds, and even amino acid precursors. These discoveries have fueled the hypothesis that comets may have delivered life's building blocks to early Earth. But 3I Atlas was something different. It was not a relic of our solar system, but of another. Studying it gave us a chance to compare our local chemistry to that of alien star systems. One of the first surprises was its carbon dioxide content. Ordinary comets in our solar system often show CO2, but 3I Atlas carried it in unusually high proportions. This suggests that the comet formed in a region of its home system where CO2 ice was abundant, perhaps in a colder, more carbon-rich zone than the one where many of our comets formed. Carbon dioxide itself is not life, but it is central to the chemistry of life. On Earth, it cycles through the atmosphere, oceans, and biosphere, absorbed by plants and exhaled by animals. Its abundance in 3I Atlas hints that the chemistry necessary for life is not unique to Earth or even to our solar system, but widespread across the galaxy. More compelling still were the organic compounds detected in 3 Atlas's coma, the cloud of gas and dust released as it neared the sun. These organics included simple hydrocarbons such as methane and acetylene, and more complex molecules containing chains of carbon and hydrogen. On Earth, such molecules are the scaffolding of biology. They build amino acids, proteins, and DNA. Though organics can form without life, their presence in an interstellar comet demonstrates that the raw ingredients for biology are not rare. They are part of the natural chemistry of planets and stars. The detection of these compounds in 3I Atlas resonates with what we know from other interstellar bodies. In 2017, the object 1I Oumuamua passed through the solar system, sparking intense debate about its origin. Though its composition was harder to study, some evidence suggested it too was rich in carbon compounds. Together, Oumuamua and 3 Atlas suggest that interstellar visitors often carry organic chemistry. This reinforces the idea of panspermia, the hypothesis that life's ingredients, or even microbes themselves, may be spread between star systems by comets and asteroids. If organics are this common, then the seeds of life may be sown across the cosmos. But the story of 3I Atlas goes deeper. Its unusual chemical makeup may hold clues about the diversity of planetary systems. In our own solar system, comets reflect the conditions of the Kuiper Belt and Oort cloud, where icy bodies froze out of the primordial solar nebula. The chemistry of 3I Atlas, however, suggests it formed under different conditions, possibly in a region richer in carbon dioxide and organic molecules than ours. This tells us that other planetary systems may produce comets with very different chemical profiles, expanding the range of environments where prebiotic chemistry can occur. For astrobiologists, the presence of CO2 and organics in 3I Atlas is a kind of reassurance. It suggests that the basic chemistry of life is not confined to Earth or even to planets. Instead, it is embedded in the natural processes of star formation and planetary birth. Organic molecules, once thought to be fragile or rare, appear to be robust and ubiquitous. They form in interstellar dust clouds, are incorporated into comets, and survive journeys between the stars. If they can endure such harsh conditions, then the likelihood that they contribute to the emergence of life elsewhere is much greater. The chemistry of 3I Atlas also bridges cosmic scales. On Earth, life uses carbon dioxide as both a building block and a waste product. Plants fix CO2 into sugars through photosynthesis. Animals exhale it as they burn food for energy. Organic molecules form the basis of all living matter. To see these same substances in an interstellar comet is to realize the chemistry of life is not confined to biology. It is written into the universe itself. Life, in this sense, may not be an accident. It may be the natural flowering of chemical processes that occur wherever carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and energy come together. Yet, as with Mars, caution is necessary. CO2 and organics are not proof of life. They can form in non-biological ways through chemical reactions in the cold of space or the heat of star-forming nebulae. But their abundance in 3I Atlas matters because it demonstrates that such chemistry is common. If every planetary system produces comets like this, then every planetary system has the ingredients for life. The question becomes not whether life's raw materials exist, but what happens to them when they land on planets with oceans, atmospheres, and energy sources. This brings us back to Earth. Many scientists believe that Earth's early oceans were seeded with organic compounds by comets and asteroids. If so, then the chemistry of 3I Atlas is a glimpse into that process on a galactic scale. Perhaps every habitable planet is showered with similar comets, enriching it with carbon and water. Perhaps life is less a miracle and more an inevitability, given time and chemistry. 3I Atlas becomes not just a visitor, but a symbol of life's potential universality. The enrichment of CO2 and organics in 3I Atlas also raises profound philosophical questions. If the building blocks of life are everywhere, does that mean life is everywhere too? Or does it mean that while the ingredients are common, the recipe is fragile, requiring rare conditions to succeed? On Earth, life emerged quickly after the planet cooled, suggesting it may arise easily, but we cannot yet know whether that pattern holds elsewhere. 3i Atlas adds weight to the idea that life's chemistry is universal. Whether biology itself is universal remains the great unknown. From a scientific perspective, studying 3i Atlas also highlights the importance of timing. Interstellar objects pass through our solar system rarely, and they move quickly. Oumuamua was gone before we could mount detailed studies. With 3 Atlas, astronomers acted faster, deploying telescopes and instruments to analyze its spectrum. The data they collected was limited but invaluable. It showed that even brief encounters with interstellar visitors can reshape our understanding of cosmic chemistry. Future missions may aim to intercept such objects directly, capturing samples to analyze in laboratories. For now, 3i Atlas stands as a reminder that the universe is chemically alive, even if we do not yet know if it is biologically alive. Its CO2 and organic compounds are not proof of aliens, but they are proof that the cosmos is fertile, filled with the seeds of possibility. Just as Mars offers us minerals and textures that resemble life, so 3i Atlas offers us chemistry that resembles life's foundation. Together, they suggest a universe not barren, but brimming with potential. In the end, the enrichment of CO2 and organics in 3i Atlas matters because it transforms our view of the galaxy. It tells us that the chemistry of life is not confined to Earth, nor to the solar system, but is written across the stars. It tells us that every interstellar comet may be a messenger, carrying the raw ingredients of biology from one system to another. And it invites us to imagine a cosmos where life is not rare, but natural, where planets everywhere are seeded with the same chemistry that gave rise to us. 3 Atlas came and went, a fleeting visitor. But in its wake, it left a profound message. The universe is rich with life's ingredients. Whether those ingredients have blossomed into living systems elsewhere is still unknown. But the comet's chemistry reminds us that life's story may not be Earth's alone. It may be a universal tale, waiting to be read in the dust and gas of worlds beyond our own. Chayava Falls' organic patterns and their significance. When Perseverance turned its instruments toward Chayava Falls, the rover uncovered something beyond the striking textures of speckled rocks and the telltale minerals vivianite and greigite. It found subtle but unmistakable organic patterns, chemical fingerprints embedded in the Martian stone, whispering of processes that could once have been biological. To the naked eye, these organics are invisible. They are not fossils in the way we imagine bones or shells, but traces of carbon-based compounds interwoven with the mineral matrix. And yet, their very presence is extraordinary. On Earth, such patterns nearly always point to biology, whether active or ancient. On Mars, their significance is potentially revolutionary. Organic compounds are molecules built primarily of carbon and hydrogen, often with oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, or phosphorus. On Earth, they form the backbone of life. Proteins, DNA, cell membranes, and metabolic enzymes are all organic. But organics are not always biological. They can form in space through chemical reactions in interstellar clouds, appear in meteorites, or arise from volcanic and hydrothermal processes. This duality makes them tantalizing and frustrating. They could mean life, or they could mean geology. The challenge is to interpret the context in which they appear. At Chayava Falls, context is everything. The organic compounds detected by Perseverance did not occur randomly. They were found in association with rocks bearing the oil-dark speckled textures that resemble microbial mats, and alongside minerals like vivianite and greigite that on Earth are strongly tied to biological activity. This convergence matters. While organics alone are ambiguous, organics embedded in rocks that already carry potential biosignatures gain new weight. It is the difference between finding a single letter and finding that letter within a sentence. It suggests intent, structure, and perhaps life. The patterns themselves are subtle. Perseverance uses instruments like Sherlock, scanning habitable environments with Raman and luminescence for organics and chemicals, and Pixel, planetary instrument for X-ray lithochemistry, to detect them. Sherlock shines ultraviolet light on Martian rocks, revealing fluorescence signals that indicate organic molecules. Pixel maps elemental chemistry at microscopic scales. Together, they allow scientists to see how organics are distributed across the rock surface. At Chayava Falls, the organics appeared not as random smudges, but as clustered patterns, often aligned with the mineral features of the speckled rocks. This suggests that they are not contaminants or isolated molecules, but part of a larger system. On Earth, similar organic patterns are found in microbial mats and stromatolites. These communities of microorganisms trap sediments, alter mineral chemistry, and leave behind organic residues that persist for billions of years. The organics at Chayava Falls evoke these ancient biosignatures. They do not prove the presence of Martian microbes, but they mirror the traces that microbes left behind on our planet's earliest rocks. For scientists, this parallel is electrifying. It suggests that Mars may once have hosted similar microbial communities, preserved now in stone. The significance of these organics extends beyond Mars itself. They offer a test case for how we might detect life on other worlds. If Perseverance can distinguish between random organics and patterned organics tied to minerals, then future missions to Europa, Enceladus, or Titan can use similar techniques. The methodology being developed at Chayava Falls could become the blueprint for astrobiology across the solar system. In this sense, the site is not just a Martian discovery, but a proving ground for the science of life detection. But the discovery also demands caution. Organics can be deceptive. Photochemistry in Mars's thin atmosphere can generate organic molecules from carbon dioxide and sunlight. Meteorites striking the surface can deliver organics from space. Hydrothermal systems, once active on Mars, could have produced organics without life. Critics argue that the organics at Chayava Falls may be such false positives. But what strengthens the case for biology is their patterning. Random organics scatter without order. Biological organics tend to cluster, align, and integrate with minerals. At Chayava Falls, the latter seems to be true. There is also the question of preservation. Mars is a harsh environment for organics today. Its thin atmosphere offers little protection from radiation, and its surface is oxidizing, breaking down carbon compounds. For organics to survive for billions of years, they must have been shielded by minerals or buried quickly after formation. At Chayava Falls, the organics appear locked within rocks, protected by the very minerals, vivianite and greigite, that suggest biological activity. This preservation is itself significant. It means that if life ever arose on Mars, traces of it could still be accessible to us, waiting to be uncovered by rovers and eventually return to Earth. The implications ripple outward. If the organics at Chayava Falls are biological, then Mars was once alive, at least at the microbial level. This would mean that life is not unique to Earth, but a process that emerges readily when conditions are right. It would mean that two worlds in one solar system independently generated life. And if that is true, then the galaxy may be filled with living worlds. The Chayava Falls organics, humble though they seem, could be the first direct evidence that life is a cosmic norm, not a cosmic miracle. Even if the organics are abiotic, their significance remains profound. They show that Mars was once chemically rich, capable of generating complex molecules that form the foundation of life. They show that the boundary between non-life and life may not be as wide as we once thought. And they remind us that even without microbes, Mars has a story of chemistry that parallels Earth's. In this sense, the Chayava Falls organics are important not just as possible biosignatures, but as windows into planetary processes that bridge the gap between geology and biology. Philosophically, the discovery also matters. Humanity has long wondered whether life exists beyond Earth. We have looked to Mars as both a neighbor and a mirror, imagining canals built by civilizations, envisioning green landscapes beneath its red sky. Those dreams faded as science revealed a barren world. Yet now, with organics in its rocks and biosignature-like patterns in its minerals, Mars whispers again of life. Not as cities or forests, but as microbes clinging to riverbeds billions of years ago. For many, this is even more profound. It means that life does not need grandeur to matter. Even the smallest forms would transform our understanding of the cosmos. The significance of the Chayava Falls organics also lies in what comes next. Perseverance is caching samples of these rocks for a future mission to return them to Earth. In laboratories here, scientists will analyze them with tools far beyond the rover's capacity. They will search for isotopic ratios, microscopic fossils, and molecular structures that could definitively separate biology from geology. If the organics turn out to be biological, the announcement will be one of the most significant in human history. And if not, The search will continue, sharpened by the lessons of this discovery. For now, Cheava Falls stands as both a promise and a mystery. Its organic patterns may be echoes of ancient Martian microbes, or they may be the products of chemistry alone. Either way, they are significant. They show us that Mars was once dynamic, complex, and capable of producing or preserving the molecules of life. They remind us that the line between living and non-living is thin, and that to search for life is to walk that line carefully. In the quiet rocks of Cheava Falls, perseverance has found more than organics. It has found meaning. It has shown us that even the faintest traces, patterns in stone, whispers of carbon, can change how we see the universe. The significance of these organics lies not only in what they are, but in what they represent. The possibility that life, fragile and fleeting, once existed on another world, and that its story is written still in the rocks, waiting for us to read. Could comets like 3I Atlas deliver life's building blocks across planets? For centuries, comets have been viewed with awe and fear, fiery harbingers streaking across the night sky. But in modern science, they have taken on a new and profound role, potential carriers of life's building blocks. The interstellar comet 3I Atlas, enriched in carbon dioxide and organic compounds, reignited this discussion in powerful ways. If such a comet could cross light years to enter our solar system, could it also transport the essential chemistry of life between worlds? Could comets be not just messengers from other star systems, but vehicles for seeding life itself? This idea is known as panspermia, the hypothesis that life, or at least its building blocks, can spread through space via comets, asteroids, or interstellar dust. It does not claim that comets create life, but rather that they act as couriers, carrying prebiotic molecules, or even hardy microbes from one world to another. For many years, panspermia remained on the fringes of science, more speculation than evidence. But discoveries like those in 3 Atlas have moved it closer to the mainstream. The comet's unusual richness in CO2 and organics is exactly the kind of cargo panspermia would require. On Earth, the story begins billions of years ago. Our young planet was bombarded by comets and asteroids during the late heavy bombardment period, around 4 billion years ago. Many scientists believe these impacts delivered vast quantities of water and carbon compounds, enriching Earth's surface with the ingredients necessary for life. Laboratory experiments, such as those inspired by the famous Miller-Urey experiment, have shown that organic molecules can form under conditions similar to early Earth's. But where did those molecules come from? One possibility is that they arrived from space, riding in on comets. Evidence supporting this comes from the comets and meteorites we have studied. In 2014, the European Space Agency's Rosetta mission landed on Comet 67P Churyumov-Gerasimenko and detected complex organics, including amino acids and phosphorus, both essential to life. Meteorites found on Earth, such as the Murchison meteorite in Australia, contain amino acids and other organic molecules that formed in space. If these building blocks are so common in comets from our own solar system, how much more might interstellar comets like 3I Atlas carry? The chemistry of 3I Atlas suggests that comets in other star systems may be just as rich, if not richer, in life's precursors. Its high levels of carbon dioxide and hydrocarbons indicate that alien planetary nurseries produce chemistry strikingly similar to our own. This means panspermia is not limited to our solar system. It could be a galactic phenomenon, with comets constantly exchanging organic cargo between stars. If life arose on Earth in part because of cometary delivery, then life could also arise on countless other worlds under similar circumstances. The question, of course, is feasibility. Could a comet actually deliver these molecules intact across the brutal conditions of space? The answer is surprisingly encouraging. Organic molecules are fragile, but they can be shielded within cometary ice. The frozen shells of comets protect their interiors from radiation, preserving molecules for billions of years. Even microbes, though more fragile than molecules, have been shown in experiments to survive extreme cold, vacuum, and radiation if encased in rock or ice. Laboratory simulations have exposed hardy bacteria and spores to space-like conditions, and many survived, at least for limited timescales. If a microbe were buried deep in a comet's core, it might survive the journey between stars. Impact delivery poses another challenge. When a comet collides with a planet, The energy released is immense, potentially destroying fragile molecules or organisms. But again, experiments suggest survival is possible. Studies of meteorite impacts show that organics can endure shock pressures. Some microbes can even survive brief, intense heating if they are insulated within rock. Not every impact would deliver life intact, but across millions of years and countless impacts, the odds improve dramatically. Mars itself offers a tantalizing test case. Some meteorites on Earth have been identified as fragments blasted off Mars by impacts. This proves that planetary material can be ejected into space and land on another world. If rocks can travel from Mars to Earth, carrying with them any microbial stowaways, then the same could happen between Earth and Mars, or even between stars, via comets like 3I Atlas. Life may not only emerge in isolation, but travel, hidden in the cold vaults of space. The significance of this possibility is staggering. If comets can deliver life's building blocks across planets, then life may not be a rare accident confined to Earth. Instead, it may be a cosmic phenomenon, seated wherever conditions are favorable. Oceans under Europa's ice, lakes on Titan, or ancient rivers on Mars may all have been enriched by cometary deliveries. Each world becomes a potential laboratory, receiving the same chemistry, waiting for it to spark into biology. But there are deeper implications still. If life on Earth originated from cometary delivery, then our ancestry may not be purely terrestrial. We may be children of the cosmos, our earliest ancestors born not in Earth's oceans, but in the icy shells of comets. This perspective reframes the human story. We are not unique, but part of a universal process, one that may be unfolding on planets across the galaxy. 3I Atlas, in this light, is not just a comet. It is a messenger from our potential cosmic relatives. Skeptics caution that panspermia remains unproven. While comets clearly deliver organics, no one has shown that they can deliver life itself. The leap from chemistry to biology is enormous. Organic molecules are necessary but not sufficient for life. Life requires organization, replication, and metabolism, complex systems unlikely to arise simply from impact delivery. Critics argue that while comets enriched Earth, life itself probably emerged here through local chemistry. Yet, even they acknowledge that without cometary contributions, the prebiotic soup might never have formed. The debate also raises philosophical questions. If comets deliver life's building blocks everywhere, does that mean life is common? Or does it mean the galaxy is full of ingredients but short on recipes? Earth may be one of the few places where the ingredients came together just right. Or perhaps life is flourishing in countless hidden worlds, waiting for us to find it. 3I Atlas cannot answer this directly, but it provides crucial evidence. The ingredients are out there, abundant and mobile. From a scientific standpoint, the discovery in 3I Atlas also opens practical opportunities. Future missions might aim to intercept interstellar comets, sampling their chemistry directly. Just as Rosetta studied Comet 67P, spacecraft could chase interstellar visitors, capturing dust and ice for return to Earth. These missions would test panspermia not as theory, but as experiment, showing us whether comets truly carry the seeds of life. For now, the idea remains both a mystery and an inspiration. 3 Atlas streaked across our skies, a brief visitor from another system, and then disappeared into the void. But it left behind a profound question. Are we the children of comets? Did worlds like Earth owe their biology to icy messengers from beyond? And if so, are other worlds, bathed in cometary rain, now nurturing their own life, waiting to be discovered? The possibility that comets like 3I Atlas deliver life's building blocks across planets matters because it transforms the cosmos from empty space into a living system. It suggests that planets are not isolated laboratories, but participants in a galactic exchange of chemistry. It makes life not just an earthly phenomenon, but a universal process, one in which every comet is a courier of potential. In the end, 3I Atlas is more than ice and dust. It is a symbol of connection, of shared chemistry across the stars. Its enrichment in CO2 and organics shows us that the building blocks of life are everywhere, not confined to our tiny world. And if comets truly can deliver these blocks across planets, then life itself may be everywhere too, born in many places, carried in many ways, and always waiting to be found. Ancient myths of star travelers and seeds of life. Long before telescopes revealed the chemistry of comets like 3I Atlas, or rovers traced microbial whispers in Martian stone, humanity looked to the sky and imagined. The night was filled with lights that seemed alive, wandering planets, fiery comets, the slow sweep of constellations. From those lights, ancient peoples spun stories of travelers who came from the heavens, beings who crossed the void to sow life, wisdom, or destruction on Earth. These myths of star travelers are some of the oldest narratives humanity carries, and they bear a striking resonance with today's scientific speculation about panspermia, the idea that life's seeds may travel between worlds on comets and asteroids. In Mesopotamia, one of humanity's earliest civilizations, myths described the Anunnaki, gods who descended from the sky to shape human destiny. They were often depicted as bringers of knowledge, agriculture, and order, suggesting that civilization itself was a gift from the stars. While these myths are symbolic, they reflect a deep intuition that what sustains us, life, wisdom, and fertility, may have come from beyond Earth. In modern scientific terms, this resonates with the idea that comets, ancient messengers from the heavens, delivered the seeds of life. The Egyptians, too, wove the heavens into their origin stories. The god Osiris, associated with resurrection and fertility, was said to have descended from Orion. His essence was scattered across Egypt, giving rise to agriculture and life. Some interpretations of these myths suggest that the Egyptians imagined a cosmic origin for life on Earth, one carried by star travelers who ensured continuity between the heavens and the Nile. When modern scientists speak of organics arriving on Earth via comets, the parallel to these myths of celestial sowing is difficult to ignore. Across the world in Mesoamerica, the Maya and Aztec peoples told of gods who came from the stars. The Maya described Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, as a divine being who descended from the heavens to impart knowledge. The Aztecs spoke of Quetzalcoatl, another serpent deity linked to Venus, who brought agriculture, law, and science. In these myths, life and civilization are gifts of the sky, not products of the earth alone. Modern theories of panspermia echo this idea, that life, or at least the potential for life, is not confined to one world, but shared across cosmic distances. In Polynesian traditions, myths tell of ancestors who sailed not only across seas, but across the heavens. The Maori of New Zealand speak of the Tangata Wairua, spirit beings who traveled from the stars to shape the land. For them, navigation of the skies was not just practical, but sacred. Stars were guides, and the beings associated with them were often creators or givers of life. The idea that life could be navigated across space on comets or meteors feels like a poetic continuation of this mythic worldview. Even in Greek mythology, echoes of cosmic travel are found. Prometheus, though not a literal star traveler, brought fire to humanity from the heavens. Fire in this sense was more than flame. It was the spark of life and intelligence, the essential ingredient for civilization. One could argue that Prometheus carrying fire mirrors the idea of a comet carrying organics, both bringers of the spark that turns inert matter into living process. Indigenous North American stories also contain striking parallels. The Hopi people speak of Kachinas, spirit beings from the stars who taught humans how to live in harmony with the earth. The Zuni recount ancestors who came from the sky and returned to it after their task was complete. These myths emphasize reciprocity between the heavens and earth, much as panspermia suggests a relationship between cosmic chemistry and terrestrial life. What is remarkable about these myths is their persistence across cultures and continents. Everywhere, people imagined beings or forces descending from the stars to plant seeds of life, knowledge, or fertility. Whether embodied as gods, serpents, or spirits, the pattern repeats. This cross-cultural motif suggests a universal intuition that life is not isolated but connected to the greater cosmos. Modern science in its own language has circled back to the same idea. Panspermia, in essence, is the scientific echo of these ancient stories. Instead of gods or serpents, it envisions comets and asteroids. Instead of fire or wisdom, it imagines carbon compounds, amino acids, and nucleotides. But the core idea remains: the seeds of life come from the sky. When scientists analyze 3 Atlas and find it enriched with organics, they are, in a way, confirming the intuition of countless generations who saw in the heavens the origin of what makes us alive. This does not mean the myths were literal. The Anunnaki were not astronauts, nor was Osiris a comet. But myths carry truths in symbolic form. They reflect how human beings understood the relationship between earth and sky. To imagine that life's essence comes from beyond is, in some sense, to align with what we now know, that Earth's chemistry was enriched by comets and meteorites. The ancient storytellers did not have spectrometers or rovers, but they recognized that the heavens and Earth were bound together. Some modern thinkers have taken this further, interpreting myths of star travelers as evidence of ancient contact with extraterrestrials. While such claims remain speculative and outside mainstream science, they capture the same sense of awe, that life on Earth may not be purely earthly. Whether through gods, aliens, or comets, the idea is the same: the seeds of life are cosmic. The symbolic weight of these myths also matters for us today. Science seeks data, but humans seek meaning. The discovery of organics on comets like 3I Atlas or on Mars is thrilling, but it becomes more powerful when framed within a narrative of connection to the cosmos. Myths provide that narrative. They remind us that the search for life elsewhere is not just a technical pursuit, but a continuation of an ancient longing to understand where we come from. If comets are indeed the star travelers of modern science, then 3I Atlas was a myth made real. It crossed the void, carrying with it the same organics that myths once described as seeds or gifts from gods. Its chemistry was not divine fire, but carbon dioxide and hydrocarbons. And yet its role is the same. It shows us that the universe is alive with potential, that what we carry within us may be shared across countless worlds. The significance of linking myths with science is that it bridges the human and the cosmic. Science tells us how life's seeds may travel, shielded in cometary ice, protected from radiation, delivered to young planets. Myths tell us why this matters, because life is not just chemistry, but story, connection, and wonder. Together, they form a fuller picture, a cosmos where life's origins are both physical and meaningful. In the end, the myths of star travelers remind us that humanity has always suspected the truth science now explores. Life does not begin and end with Earth. It is part of a larger pattern, a story written in stars, comets, and dreams. Whether the seeds of life came from 3 Atlas or from Earth's own chemistry, the meaning is the same. We are not isolated. We are part of a universe that has always been fertile, always sowing, always alive with possibility. And so the myths live on, not as literal accounts, but as poetic foreshadowings of what we now confirm with rovers and telescopes. Star travelers may not be gods or serpents, but icy comets carrying organics. The seeds of life may not be gifts from deities, but molecules forged in interstellar clouds. Yet the wonder remains the same. Humanity, gazing upward, has always known that the answers to our beginnings lie in the sky. Today, science finally has the tools to uncover them, and in doing so, it gives ancient myths a new resonance, showing us that their intuition was not so far from the truth after all. Encoded cosmic events hidden in ancient stories. Humanity has always sought to understand the sky, but long before telescopes or satellites, the only tools were memory, myth, and oral tradition. Ancient peoples wove their observations into stories, narratives that were retold across generations, often embellished with gods, animals, or spirits. Yet, beneath these layers of symbolism, researchers have begun to recognize something profound. Many myths encode records of real cosmic events. Solar eclipses, cometary visits, meteor showers, supernovae, and planetary alignments all appear to have been preserved, not as dry data, but as living stories. And when we look closely, these tales may even contain hints about how comets, asteroids, and cosmic seed bearers shaped Earth's history and possibly life itself. One striking example comes from Aboriginal Australian traditions, some of the oldest continuous cultural narratives in the world. Among these are stories describing fiery serpents crossing the sky, accompanied by thunder and destruction. For decades, anthropologists dismissed these tales as metaphorical. But modern astronomy has identified that some of these stories correspond to ancient meteor impacts, such as those forming craters like Henbury in Australia's Northern Territory. Oral traditions remembered an event that likely occurred thousands of years ago, a fiery rock from the heavens striking Earth. In myth, it became a serpent. In geology, a crater. The serpent perhaps was not only a destroyer, but also a bringer, delivering minerals and possibly organics from beyond. Similarly, in China, ancient chronicles recorded the appearance of a guest star in 1054 CE. To observers, it was a brilliant light in the sky, visible even in daylight. To modern astronomers, it was a supernova explosion, the remnants of which form the Crab Nebula. The event was encoded not only in written records, but in symbolic art and myth, ensuring its survival across cultures. While this particular event was destructive on stellar scales, it reflects how ancient societies embedded cosmic phenomena into their worldview. The heavens were not abstract, they were active participants in human life. The story of comets is perhaps the most compelling thread in this pattern. Ancient cultures often regarded comets as omens of change, sometimes catastrophic, sometimes creative. The Greeks feared them as harbingers of disaster, while the Mayans and Aztecs incorporated comet symbolism into their cosmic calendars. Modern science now tells us that comets are indeed harbingers, not of fate, but of chemistry. They carry water, carbon dioxide, and organic molecules. When they collide with planets, they can trigger mass extinctions, as with the event that wiped out the dinosaurs, or enrich young worlds with life's ingredients. The myths may not have known them as chemistry, but they captured the truth. Comets alter destiny. In Norse mythology, the tale of Ragnarok describes a series of cosmic disasters: the sun darkened, stars vanishing, fire raining from the heavens, and the world consumed in chaos before renewal. Scholars often read this as a poetic vision of apocalypse, but some see echoes of real cosmic events: volcanic eruptions blotting out the sun, meteor showers lighting up the sky, or even impacts shaking the earth. Encoded in myth is the memory that the sky itself can fall, and when it does, it reshapes the world. To people who lived close to the land and sky, such events were too important to forget. Another rich example comes from Native American traditions. The Pawnee and other Plains tribes described the long-tailed stars that appeared suddenly and blazed across the sky. Their stories associated these celestial visitors with cycles of destruction and renewal. Archaeological evidence suggests that such accounts may preserve memories of Halley's Comet or other periodic visitors. For those who told the stories, the comet was not a mere object, but a messenger, signaling that the universe was in motion and that its movements could change Earth. Science now confirms that such cometary visits not only inspire awe, but can indeed alter climate, ecosystems, and even the trajectory of life. Encoded cosmic events can also be found in the myths of India. The Rig Veda, among the oldest sacred texts, contains hymns describing celestial battles, fiery streaks in the heavens, and rivers of light. Some scholars interpret these as symbolic accounts of meteor showers and comets. In particular, descriptions of a serpent split in the sky may correspond to fragmented comets breaking apart as they approach the sun, a phenomenon we now observe with modern instruments. For ancient peoples, these events were terrifying and divine. For us, they are reminders that myth is often a poetic archive of astronomical data. The Mayan calendar system offers another encoded record. Its intricate cycles track the movements of Venus, eclipses, and celestial alignments with extraordinary precision. Mayan myths describe the descent of gods tied to Venus, often associated with upheaval and rebirth. Today, astronomers recognize that Venus's cycles were meticulously observed and encoded in story. In this sense, myth functioned as both science and spirituality, an integrated way of remembering cosmic patterns that influenced agriculture, ritual, and survival. Why would ancient peoples encode cosmic events in myth? Because stories are durable. Numbers and records can be lost, but tales passed down orally endure. A myth of a fiery serpent will outlive a ledger noting a meteor struck in year X. Encoding events as gods, beasts, or dramas ensures their survival across generations. And when modern scientists peel back the symbolism, they often find real events at the core. Myth becomes a time capsule, much like a comet itself, carrying seeds of memory across millennia. The connection to life's origins becomes especially intriguing when we consider that many myths not only describe destruction from the sky, but creation as well. In Polynesian traditions, stars are not just navigational markers, but ancestors, their journeys seeding the world below. In Egyptian cosmology, the sky goddess Nut swallows the sun and births it anew each day, reflecting the cycle of death and rebirth tied to celestial order. These stories suggest an ancient intuition that the sky does not merely destroy, it gives. Just as comets can extinguish species but also deliver water and organics, myths depict the heavens as both fearsome and fertile. Some researchers have suggested that encoded stories may preserve memories of even earlier cosmic events, such as gamma ray bursts or massive solar storms, that left imprints on climate and human history. While speculative, the idea reflects a growing recognition that human cultures are not just passive observers, but active archivists of cosmic history. We may not always understand the data encoded in myths, but it is there, waiting to be decoded. The story of Three-Eye Atlas adds a modern chapter to this long tradition. An interstellar visitor enriched with organics and carbon dioxide crosses our sky. Today, we interpret its significance through spectroscopy and astrophysics. But in ancient times, it would have become a myth, a fiery god, a serpent, a traveler sowing seeds across worlds. If we had no science, we too would encode it in story, passing it down as a tale of origin or omen. Perhaps in the distant future, when our own records are lost, only such myths will survive. Ultimately, the encoding of cosmic events in ancient stories shows us that humanity has always sought to link the heavens with life. Myths are not primitive errors, but sophisticated narratives, preserving vital knowledge in symbolic form. Today, as science confirms that comets carry organics and may seed worlds, those myths gain new resonance. They remind us that our ancestors, watching the same sky, sensed truths we now measure with instruments, that the heavens are alive, that they shape our fate, and that perhaps the seeds of our very existence fell from above. In this way, myths are not just stories but mirrors, reflecting both human imagination and cosmic reality. Encoded within them are the memories of comets blazing, meteors striking, stars dying, and perhaps even the seeds of life arriving on Earth. Science gives us the data. Myth gives us the meaning. Together, they tell a story that stretches from the first storytellers around ancient fires to the instruments of perseverance and telescopes trained on Three-Eye Atlas, a story in which the universe is not silent but continually speaking, and we, across generations, are learning how to listen. The panspermia hypothesis, life seeded by comets and asteroids. Few scientific ideas stir the imagination as vividly as panspermia, the hypothesis that life on Earth may have originated not here, but from the stars, carried across the void by comets, asteroids, or interstellar dust. At first glance, it seems like myth disguised as science, echoing ancient tales of gods or star travelers sowing life on Earth. Yet, panspermia is not mere speculation. It is rooted in discoveries about the chemistry of comets, the resilience of microbes, and the cosmic abundance of organic molecules. In recent decades, evidence has steadily accumulated that makes this hypothesis increasingly plausible, if not yet proven. At its core, panspermia suggests that life, or at least its building blocks, did not arise in isolation on Earth. Instead, they were delivered here from space, preserved in the icy shells of comets or the rocky cores of asteroids. These bodies, colliding with the early Earth during periods of heavy bombardment, could have seeded the planet with amino acids, nucleobases, and other prebiotic molecules. Once in Earth's oceans, these molecules may have assembled into the first living systems. In this view, Earth is not unique, but part of a larger cosmic ecology in which life's ingredients are exchanged freely between worlds. The strongest support for panspermia comes from the chemistry of comets and meteorites. The Murchison meteorite, which fell in Australia in 1969, was found to contain over 70 different amino acids, many of which are not used by life on Earth, but demonstrate that abiotic processes in space can produce complex organics. More recently, the Rosetta mission to Comet 67P Churyumov-Gerasimenko detected glycine, the simplest amino acid, and phosphorus, both essential to biology. NASA's Stardust mission captured samples from Comet Wild 2 that also revealed complex organic molecules. Each discovery reinforces the idea that comets and asteroids are not barren rocks, but rich chemical factories. Interstellar comets like Three-Eye Atlas extend this picture even further. Their enrichment in carbon dioxide and organics suggests that such chemistry is not unique to our solar system, but common across the galaxy. If so, then every planetary system may be seeded with life's ingredients, carried on comets that drift between stars. Panspermia, in this sense, becomes not just a hypothesis about Earth, but a universal principle. Life's seeds are sown across the cosmos. But panspermia is not only about molecules. Some versions suggest that entire microbes could survive the journey through space. This may sound impossible, but experiments have shown otherwise. In 2008, the European Space Agency exposed microbes and spores to the harsh conditions of space aboard the International Space Station. Some survived, shielded by thin layers of rock or dust. Tardigrades, tiny water-dwelling creatures nicknamed water bears, have endured the vacuum of space and high radiation for extended periods. Bacterial spores, protected from ultraviolet light, have revived after years in orbit. These experiments suggest that if microbes were buried deep within a comet or asteroid, insulated by ice and rock, they could potentially survive interstellar travel lasting millions of years. The next challenge is delivery. Even if microbes or molecules survive the cold of space, could they endure the fiery plunge through a planet's atmosphere and the violent shock of impact? Again, experiments give hope. Studies simulating impacts have shown that amino acids can survive shock pressures comparable to those of asteroid collisions. Microbial spores embedded in rock have been tested in impact experiments and, in some cases, survived. Meteorites from Mars have been found on Earth, proving that planetary material can be blasted off one world and land intact on another. If rocks can travel from Mars to Earth carrying potential microbes, then comets could do the same across larger distances. Critics of panspermia argue that while it explains the delivery of molecules, it does not explain the origin of life itself. If comets supplied amino acids and nucleobases to Earth, we still need to understand how those molecules assembled into self-replicating systems. In this view, panspermia merely shifts the question. If life did not arise on Earth, where did it arise? Did it originate on some distant planet, only to spread across the galaxy via comets? Or did it begin in interstellar dust clouds, where organic chemistry unfolds over eons? Panspermia leaves these questions open. Yet, even with these uncertainties, it has profound implications. One implication is that life may be widespread. If comets carry organics everywhere, and if they occasionally deliver viable microbes, then the galaxy could be filled with planets seeded in this way. Life may not require a miracle of chemistry on each planet, but a single origin followed by dispersal. Just as dandelion seeds spread across fields, life seeds could spread across star systems, carried by comets like 3I Atlas. Another implication is that life on Earth may not be unique. If panspermia is true, then our ancestors may not have been purely earthly, but cosmic. We are, in that sense, children of the stars, not only metaphorically because our atoms were forged in supernovae, but literally because our earliest biology may have been sown by comets. This redefines humanity's place in the universe. We are not isolated. We are part of a living cosmos. Yet panspermia also raises sobering possibilities. If life is spread by comets, then Earth may not be the only planet in the solar system seeded with organics. Mars, Europa, and Enceladus may also carry traces of the same chemistry, or even microbes. If we discover life there, it may not be independent, but related to us, sharing a common origin in the stars. In that case, finding life elsewhere would not only answer the question, are we alone, but would allow us to trace our family tree beyond Earth. There is also the possibility of false positives. If comets seed organics everywhere, then finding organics on Mars or Titan does not necessarily mean life arose there. They could simply be deposits from comets, waiting for conditions to assemble them into life. Panspermia, therefore, complicates the search for extraterrestrial biology. It makes it harder to distinguish between worlds that independently gave rise to life and those merely enriched by cosmic deliveries. Philosophically, panspermia echoes ancient intuitions. Myths of gods descending from the heavens, star spirits sowing life, and cosmic travelers bringing fertility all mirror the scientific image of comets delivering organics. Humanity has always sensed that our roots lie in the sky. Panspermia gives that intuition a scientific foundation, turning mythology into hypothesis. The difference is that instead of gods, we now imagine comets. Instead of divine fire, carbon chains. But the wonder is the same. The panspermia hypothesis also invites us to think of the universe not as empty, but as fertile. Space is not barren, but seeded, filled with icy messengers carrying organics across unimaginable distances. Every star system is not only a set of planets, but a participant in a galactic exchange, a network of life's potential. In this vision, Earth is not an isolated miracle, but one node in a cosmic web. Of course, proving panspermia will not be easy. To confirm it, we would need to find life elsewhere, on Mars, Europa, or an exoplanet, and show that it shares the same biochemistry as Earth life. If Martian microbes have DNA, proteins, and amino acids identical to ours, that would suggest a common origin, perhaps delivered by comets. If, however, they are completely different, then life arose independently more than once, making it even more common than panspermia suggests. Either result would be profound. For now, panspermia remains a hypothesis, plausible, supported by evidence, but unproven. Yet its significance lies not only in whether it is true, but in what it implies. It expands our imagination, reminding us that life is not confined to one world, but may be a cosmic process. It connects science with ancient myth, chemistry with philosophy, and humanity with the stars. And so we return to comets like 3I Atlas. Enriched in organics, traveling between star systems, they embody the essence of panspermia. They are not just icy wanderers, but possible couriers of life's seeds. Whether those seeds ever sprout depends on where they fall, onto barren rocks or into oceans ready to nurture them. On Earth, perhaps we were lucky. Elsewhere in the galaxy, countless other worlds may be waiting, seeded by comets, poised to awaken. In the end, panspermia matters because it transforms the way we see ourselves. If true, our origin is not simply earthly but cosmic. Life is not a local accident but a universal story, told in the chemistry of comets, the resilience of microbes, and the myths of star travelers. And if so, then every comet that streaks across the sky is not only a reminder of destruction and change, but also of creation, the sowing of seeds that may one day bloom into new worlds alive. 3I Atlas as a potential cosmic messenger of life. When the interstellar comet 3I Atlas swept through our solar system, it carried with it more than ice and dust. It carried questions about our origins, about the universality of life, and about the possibility that comets themselves may be emissaries, delivering messages in chemistry rather than words. Scientists studying its unusual enrichment in carbon dioxide and organic compounds began to speak of it not only as an astronomical curiosity, but as something deeper, a potential cosmic messenger of life. Unlike the silent comets born in our own system, 3I Atlas had traveled from beyond, crossing the abyss between stars. In its icy body, it may have borne the ingredients of biology, hinting that life's seeds are not confined to one solar system, but scattered across the galaxy. To call 3I Atlas a messenger is to see it as more than matter. It is to see it as a bearer of meaning. Just as a letter carries inked words, a comet carries chemical signatures. Carbon compounds, water ice, and even amino acids can be preserved within its frozen core for billions of years. When such a comet crosses a solar system, those signatures can be read by instruments, decoded as evidence of universal chemistry. In this way, 3I Atlas spoke to us, not in language, but in spectra. The light it reflected and emitted, which revealed the molecules it contained. What it said was profound. I carry the same ingredients you do. This is why scientists speak of it as a messenger. It demonstrates that organic chemistry, so central to life on Earth, is not limited to our corner of space. Instead, it is woven into the fabric of the cosmos. If one interstellar comet is enriched in organics, then surely others are too. If such comets pass through countless planetary systems, striking some worlds or delivering dust to others, then they serve as couriers, scattering life's potential wherever they go. The message they carry is not just chemical, but philosophical. You are not alone. The universe is fertile. The idea of comets as messengers is not new. Ancient cultures often interpreted their sudden appearance in the sky as signs, omens of war, death, or change. The Greeks called them hairy stars and feared them. The Chinese recorded them meticulously, associating their tales with political upheaval. To the Mayans and Aztecs, comets were divine warnings. While these interpretations were symbolic, they share a common truth. Comets do alter the course of history. The impact of a comet or asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs, clearing the stage for mammals and eventually humans. Smaller impacts have shaped climate, ecosystems, and even human culture. In a sense, comets are messengers, their visits marking turning points in planetary stories. 3 Atlas, however, extends this idea beyond symbolism. It is not merely an omen, but a literal courier of chemistry. As an interstellar visitor, it likely formed in a planetary nursery far from our own, carrying within it the frozen relics of another star system's birth. Its molecules tell us that life's potential is not unique to Earth's history. They are a message across light years, evidence that biology's alphabet, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, exists everywhere. If comets like 3I Atlas travel frequently between stars, then they may even serve as the carriers of panspermia, sowing the seeds of life from one system to another. The notion of 3I Atlas as a messenger also has implications for our search for extraterrestrial life. One of the great questions is whether life arose independently on Earth or whether it was seeded from elsewhere. If organics are abundant in interstellar comets, then the line between local and cosmic origin blurs. Perhaps life began on Earth using comet-delivered ingredients, or perhaps microbes themselves once traveled here, frozen within a comet's icy vault, awakening in Earth's oceans. If so, then humanity's ancestors are not purely terrestrial. They are cosmic, carried here by messengers like 3I Atlas. Even if life itself was not transported, the symbolism of a messenger remains. 3I Atlas shows us that the universe is communicative. It does not speak in human language, but in patterns, mineral traces, chemical ratios, spectral signatures. Each comet that enters our telescope's view is like a letter delivered, waiting to be read. The message of 3I Atlas is that life's ingredients are widespread. It is an answer, however partial, to the question, are we alone? The answer is, the chemistry of life is everywhere. Whether biology follows is still uncertain, but the cosmos has provided the tools. The messenger metaphor also invites us to reflect on humanity's place in the story. When we study 3I Atlas, we are not merely observing an object, we are decoding a communication across time and space. The comet formed billions of years ago in a distant system, traveled through interstellar darkness, and arrived here just as humanity had the technology to detect its organics. The timing feels uncanny, though it is simply probability. Comets pass often, and now we are watching. Yet it highlights a truth. The universe has always been sending messages. Only now have we learned to read them. Skeptics, of course, caution against overinterpretation. To call 3I Atlas a messenger risks anthropomorphizing a rock and ice ball. It has no intention, no consciousness. Its chemistry is not a deliberate message, but a byproduct of natural processes. And yet, in another sense, all evidence is a message if there is someone to interpret it. The fossil in stone is a message from an ancient creature. The rings of a tree are messages about climate. The light of distant stars is a message about the universe's past. By this standard, 3I Atlas is indeed a messenger, not by will, but by fact. Its organics are evidence, and evidence is communication. As a messenger, 3I Atlas also raises practical questions. How many such comets cross our solar system unnoticed? How many deliver dust to Earth carrying with it exotic chemistry? Could interstellar comets contribute to Earth's organics even today? If so, then life is not only seeded in the past, but continually enriched by cosmic deliveries. Each passing comet becomes part of the ongoing story of Earth's biosphere, reminding us that we are connected not just to our sun, but to the galaxy itself. The messenger role of 3I Atlas also touches on myth. Ancient tales of star travelers bringing life echo strongly here. The comet is a literal traveler bearing life's precursors. In myth, the message was divine wisdom. In science, it is carbon chains. Both are seeds, one symbolic, one chemical. Humanity, gazing upward, has always imagined messages from the stars. 3I Atlas confirms that such messages exist, not in prophecy, but in chemistry. Looking ahead, the messenger role of interstellar comets points toward future exploration. Missions could be designed to intercept and sample such objects, capturing their dust and analyzing it in laboratories. By studying more comets like 3I Atlas, we could map the chemical diversity of star systems across the galaxy. Each comet would be a postcard from a distant nursery, carrying news of how matter and molecules arrange themselves elsewhere. Together, they would form a cosmic archive, telling the story of life's potential across space. Ultimately, to call 3I Atlas a potential cosmic messenger of life is to recognize what it symbolizes. It is not proof of aliens, but it is proof of connection. It is evidence that the same chemistry that sustains us exists far beyond. It tells us that life's ingredients are not rare jewels, but common dust, scattered freely. And it suggests that if we listen closely enough, The universe may already be speaking through comets, meteorites, and the rocks of Mars. In the end, the message of 3 Atlas is both humbling and hopeful. It humbles us by showing that Earth is not unique in its chemistry. It places us within a larger system, one in which organics drift endlessly between stars. And it gives hope, because if comets like this travel everywhere, then life may not be confined to Earth. It may be written across the galaxy, waiting to be discovered. 3 Atlas came and went, but its message lingers. Life's seeds are not bound to one world. They are cosmic, carried on icy messengers across the stars. What if Mars once had life? Hidden biospheres, underground life, or resilience? For as long as humanity has peered at the red planet through telescopes, Mars has carried the weight of possibility. Canals imagined by early astronomers hinted at civilizations. Dust storms, polar caps, and seasonal dark streaks suggested change, perhaps even growth. Today, with orbiters mapping its surface and rovers crawling across its rocks, the question remains as urgent as ever. What if Mars once had life? And more than that, what if life never fully disappeared? Could there be hidden biospheres deep underground, microbial colonies clinging to warmth and water, surviving in ways we have only begun to imagine? The first point to consider is Mars's history. Billions of years ago, Mars was not the cold desert we see today. Evidence from river valleys, lake beds, and mineral deposits reveals a wetter world. Vast floods carved channels across its surface, and ancient deltas suggest long-lived bodies of water. The presence of clays and sulfates further indicates that liquid water once interacted with the crust, creating habitats that on Earth teem with microbes. If life ever arose on Mars, those early watery epochs would have provided a cradle. But what happened when the climate changed? Mars lost most of its atmosphere, stripped by solar wind after its magnetic field weakened. Without protection, liquid water on the surface evaporated or froze. The planet became hostile to surface life. Yet on Earth, microbes have shown resilience far beyond expectations. They thrive deep in mines, kilometers below ground, surviving on hydrogen and sulfur rather than sunlight. They live inside Antarctic ice, feeding slowly on trapped nutrients. They flourish around hydrothermal vents in the deep ocean where no sunlight penetrates. If Earth's microbes can adapt to such extremes, could Mars's life have retreated underground when the surface became inhospitable? Hidden biospheres beneath the Martian surface are one of the most compelling possibilities. Radar data from orbiters has suggested subsurface lakes of salty water beneath the polar ice. Though debated, the idea remains plausible. Briny reservoirs insulated from the harsh surface may persist to this day. Microbes could survive there, much as they do in Earth's subglacial lakes like Vostok in Antarctica. These hidden habitats would be shielded from radiation and temperature extremes, providing sanctuaries for life long after the surface became barren. Perchlorates in Martian soil complicate the story. These salts are toxic to most Earth life, but they can also act as antifreeze, lowering the freezing point of water. If microbes on Mars adapted to perchlorate-rich environments, they might use these compounds to their advantage, surviving in thin films of liquid brine just beneath the soil. In fact, some Earth microbes metabolize perchlorates, using them as an energy source. If Mars had a biosphere, it may have found resilience in precisely the chemistry we consider hostile. Fossil evidence is another possibility. If life once flourished on Mars's surface during its wetter past, then biosignatures may remain locked in rock. Perseverance's discoveries at Chayava Falls, oil dark speckled textures, vivianite, greigite, and organics, suggest environments where microbes could once have thrived. These may be relics of ancient biofilms or microbial mats. Even if life is now extinct, its traces could still be preserved in mineralized structures, isotopic ratios, or organic residues. In this sense, Mars may be a planetary archive of a vanished biosphere. But the more radical possibility is that life never vanished, that it adapted, endured, and still exists today. If so, where might we find it? Subsurface aquifers are prime candidates, warmed slightly by geothermal heat. Caves, lava tubes, and fractures in the crust could provide stable refuges. Even beneath rocks, where small amounts of water may condense, hardy microbes could persist. Earth's own extremophiles offer many analogs. The bacterium Deinococcus radiodurans survives extreme radiation. Archaea live in boiling hot springs, acidic rivers, and deep-sea vents. Spores of bacteria have been revived after millions of years in dormancy. These examples demonstrate that resilience is not rare, but a hallmark of life. If Mars harbors hidden biospheres, they may be sparse, fragile, and difficult to detect. Unlike Earth's lush biosphere, Mars's would be a shadow, small colonies eking out existence in isolated pockets. Yet even a single microbe discovered on Mars would transform our understanding of life. It would prove that biology is not unique to Earth, but a planetary process that emerges when conditions permit. The possibility of resilience also raises questions about independence. If life exists on Mars, is it related to us? Meteorites have traveled between Mars and Earth, blasted into space by impacts. Microbes could, in theory, have hitchhiked on these rocks. If Martian life shares DNA, it might mean panspermia has already occurred, linking our biospheres. But if Martian life is utterly alien, based on different biochemistry, then life arose twice in one solar system. That would suggest that life is not just possible, but inevitable across the universe. Mars's hidden biospheres also matter for the future of exploration. If we send humans to Mars, we risk contaminating it with Earth microbes, making it harder to distinguish native life from imported. Protecting potential habitats is essential, not just for science, but for ethics. To encounter another biosphere, even microbial, would raise profound questions about how we treat alien life. Do we study it, protect it, interact with it, or leave it undisturbed? Mars could force humanity to confront these dilemmas sooner than we expect. The search for resilience on Mars continues through missions like Perseverance, ExoMars, delayed but planned, and potential sample return projects. Instruments probe for organics, isotopic ratios, and mineral contexts. Drills reach below the surface, looking for signs of water and chemistry. Orbiters scan for anomalies beneath the ice. Each discovery adds a piece to the puzzle. Yet the full answer may only come when samples are returned to Earth, analyzed with the most sensitive tools. Even if we never find present life, the question, what if Mars once had life, has transformative power. It forces us to consider that Earth is not singular. It makes us rethink the boundaries of habitability, stretching our imaginations to brines, caves, and ice. It deepens our appreciation for resilience, reminding us that life is not fragile but astonishingly adaptable. And it reshapes our cosmic perspective. If Mars, Earth's neighbor, once hosted life, then the galaxy is likely full of living worlds. Culturally and philosophically, the idea resonates with our oldest myths and longings. Ancient peoples told stories of life coming from the sky, of gods descending from planets and stars. The possibility of hidden Martian biospheres is a modern echo of those intuitions. Mars, once imagined as the home of civilizations, may not hold cities, but it may still hold life. And in microbial form, that life would be no less profound. In the end, the resilience of life on Mars, past or present, is not just a scientific question, but a mirror. It reflects our own story of survival on a fragile planet, our own adaptations to extremes, our own search for meaning in the cosmos. If Mars once had life, then it shows us that biology is not confined to one world, but is a cosmic tendency. If Mars still has life, hidden underground, then it tells us something even greater. That life endures, no matter how harsh the environment, no matter how long the odds. And in that endurance, we may glimpse a truth that reaches far beyond Mars, that the universe itself is alive with possibility, resilient, patient, and waiting to be discovered. Ancient civilizations' fascination with Mars and the heavens, long before telescopes revealed the true nature of Mars as a desert world with frozen poles and dust storms, it was already deeply embedded in the human imagination. To the ancients, Mars was not a distant planet, but a living presence, a red star that blazed differently from all others. It wandered across the heavens, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, sometimes even appearing to move backward in its retrograde loops. Its deep crimson color reminded people of blood, fire, and war. As a result, nearly every civilization gave Mars a role in myth, religion, and ritual. Their fascination with the red planet was not just curiosity, but reverence and fear, a recognition that the heavens spoke in symbols, and Mars was among the most powerful of them. In Mesopotamia, one of the earliest cradles of astronomy, Mars was known as Nergal, the god of war, plague, and destruction. To the Babylonians and Assyrians, its sudden brightening or unusual movement across the sky was read as an omen for kings and nations. Tablets inscribed with cuneiform record careful observations of Mars, associating its motions with predictions of famine or conflict. For them, the red star was not simply light in the sky, but an active agent in human affairs. This intertwining of astronomy and divination shows just how seriously Mars was regarded. Its movements were cosmic messages, warnings encoded in celestial dance. The Greeks inherited much of their astronomy from Babylon, but they layered their own mythology onto the heavens. To them, Mars became Ares, the god of war, bloodshed, and violence. The planet's redness was unmistakable, evoking the battlefield. Ares was both feared and honored, and his celestial counterpart was thought to embody the same restless energy. When Roman culture absorbed Greek traditions, Ares became Mars, a god not only of war but also of agriculture, fertility, and the protection of Rome itself. This duality is striking. For Romans, Mars symbolized destruction and renewal, the plow and the sword. His presence in the sky was a constant reminder that life itself is cyclical, moving through struggle and survival. Egyptian civilization also found meaning in the Red Wanderer. Mars was associated with Horus the Red, a fierce aspect of the falcon-headed god of kingship and war. Egyptian priests carefully tracked planetary motions, connecting them to cycles of the Nile and the fate of pharaohs. The reddish star, moving among constellations sacred to their cosmology, became part of a broader map of divine order. Even in funerary texts, the heavens were depicted as rivers and fields, with stars and planets as divine beings guiding souls. Mars, with its violent hue, was woven into these spiritual journeys. Across the world in Mesoamerica, the Mayans and Aztecs developed complex astronomical systems in which Mars played a central role. The Maya recorded Mars's movements with astonishing precision, weaving them into their calendar cycles. They associated the red star with gods of war and fire, much like their Old World counterparts. In Mayan codices, Mars's retrograde motion, its apparent backward path across the sky, was linked to cosmic battles and disruptions in order. To the Aztecs, Mars was part of the celestial rhythm that dictated the timing of rituals, warfare, and sacrifices. Their fascination with Mars reveals a truth about all ancient cultures. They did not view the heavens as distant. They saw them as the blueprint of earthly life, mirrored in ritual, agriculture, and destiny. In India, Mars became Mangala, a deity associated with war, energy, and action, but also with auspicious beginnings. Ancient Indian astronomers tracked Mars meticulously, developing mathematical models to predict its movements. These calculations became embedded in Jyotisha, or Vedic astrology, where Mars influences personality, fate, and marriage. For thousands of years, Indian traditions have seen Mars as more than a planet. It is a force shaping human destiny, tied to both spiritual and material outcomes. China, too, recorded Mars with extraordinary care. To them, it was known as the fire star, one of the 5 stars associated with elements that govern the balance of the cosmos. Its color signaled danger or upheaval, and its position in the sky was interpreted as a message to emperors. Astronomers kept detailed records of Mars's path, noting eclipses, conjunctions, and retrograde motions. These were used to justify political decisions, legitimize rulers, or warn of disasters. Mars was both celestial and terrestrial, a red lamp in the sky whose meaning could not be ignored. Among indigenous peoples of North America, Mars also found a place in story and skywatching. Some tribes incorporated it into star lore as a wandering spirit, often associated with war or hunting. Its bright, shifting nature made it stand out against the fixed stars, and its reddish glow lent itself naturally to themes of blood and conflict. Oral traditions preserved its meaning across generations, encoding memory in narrative just as much as observation. Why were ancient civilizations so fascinated by Mars? The simplest answer is its uniqueness. Few celestial bodies are so strikingly colored. While Jupiter is bright and Venus even brighter, Mars's redness made it visceral. It evoked blood and fire in a way that no other planet did. Coupled with its erratic movement, sometimes disappearing, sometimes reversing course, it seemed alive. To the ancients, who saw the cosmos as animate and meaningful, Mars could only be the embodiment of powerful forces. But there may be another layer to their fascination, a kind of intuition. Modern science shows that Mars was once Earth-like, with rivers, lakes, and perhaps even oceans. It may have been habitable, even inhabited, billions of years ago. The ancients could not have known this scientifically, but they may have sensed that Mars was special. Its redness set it apart, its behavior made it unpredictable, and its symbolism tied it to survival and conflict. Across cultures, Mars was rarely neutral. It was always active, always a force. Perhaps unconsciously, humanity recognized that the red planet carried secrets about life and death, just as it does today in our scientific search. This fascination also shaped culture in enduring ways. The Roman god Mars gave his name to the month of March, once marking the beginning of the new year and the campaign season. In astrology, Mars still signifies energy, aggression, and drive. Military terms, such as martial or martial law, carry his legacy. Even in modern science fiction, Mars is depicted as a world of struggle, whether as a dying planet, a host to alien civilizations, or humanity's future home. The fascination never faded. It simply shifted from myth to speculation, from divine omens to scientific exploration. Today, as rovers crawl across the Martian surface and orbiters map its canyons and craters, our fascination continues. The ancients looked up and saw gods of war. We look up and see a world that might once have held life, or might still hold it underground. In both cases, Mars is a mirror. To them, it reflected human conflict and divine will. To us, it reflects our search for origins and our hopes for survival beyond Earth. The continuity is striking. Across millennia, Mars has never been just a planet. It has always been a symbol, a mystery, a focus of imagination. In the end, the ancient fascination with Mars reminds us that the heavens are not only physical, but cultural. The red planet's glow shaped myths, calendars, rituals, and even languages. It taught people to watch the skies, to connect cosmic movements with earthly events. And today, as we prepare for possible human missions to Mars, the fascination comes full circle. The planet that once inspired myths of gods and omens now inspires rockets and laboratories. Yet the wonder is the same. Mars has always been a messenger, whether of war, fate, or life itself. Its pull on human imagination is proof that the heavens and humanity are entwined, forever watching each other across the gulf of space. Did cultures like the Egyptians, Mayans, and Sumerians connect Mars to gods or myths? Across the ancient world, the red star we now call Mars was never just another point of light. Its fiery color and restless motion marked it as unique, and civilizations from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica wove it into their spiritual and mythological frameworks. For the Egyptians, Mayans, and Sumerians, Mars was a divine presence linked to gods of war, death, fertility, or cosmic order. While their myths were distinct, they shared a common conviction. Mars was not an ordinary planet, but a celestial being whose influence reached down into the affairs of Earth. The Sumerians of Mesopotamia, among the first great sky watchers, gave Mars one of its earliest divine identities. They associated the planet with Nergal, a god of war, plague, and the underworld. Nergal was not only a destroyer, but also a ruler of transitions, death and renewal, punishment and fertility. To the Sumerians, the redness of Mars signaled blood and fire, echoing Nergal's violent yet cyclical role. Their clay tablets, etched with cuneiform, describe planetary omens in detail. The appearance of Mars could foretell famine, uprisings, or the death of kings. In this way, Mars was not a passive star, but an active participant in human destiny. Its very motion in the heavens was interpreted as communication from the divine. The Babylonians and later Assyrians inherited this association, continuing to link Mars with Nergal. For them, planetary astronomy and religion were intertwined. Priests observed the skies meticulously, recording Mars's brightness, retrograde loops, and conjunctions with other stars. These observations were not for curiosity alone. They were tools for divination. A bright, unsteady Mars might mean conflict on Earth. Its conjunction with Jupiter, seen as a kingly star, could signal upheaval in empires. The mythology of Nergal merged seamlessly with astronomical practice. Mars was a god with a predictable yet mysterious path, and decoding its behavior became a way of understanding divine will. In Egypt, Mars carried a different, though equally charged significance. The Egyptians called it Horus the Red, connecting it with the falcon-headed god of kingship and war. Horus, a central figure in Egyptian myth, embodied protection, power, and the legitimacy of rulers. His red aspect symbolized aggression and conflict, fitting the crimson glow of Mars. Egyptian priests who studied the heavens as part of their sacred duty carefully noted Mars's movement through constellations sacred to their cosmology. Mars was not simply a wandering light. It was a form of Horus himself, asserting divine authority in the sky. Other Egyptian texts link Mars to Set, the god of chaos, storms, and violence. This dual attribution, sometimes Horus, sometimes Set, mirrors the dual nature of Mars as both a bringer of order and a symbol of destruction. In mythology, Horus and Set were locked in eternal struggle, representing cosmic balance. Mars, red and volatile, embodied both sides of this struggle depending on its appearance. If Mars shone steadily, it was Horus guarding the pharaoh. If it flickered or moved strangely, it was Set unleashing chaos. Thus, Egyptian myth did not simply assign Mars to one deity, but wove it into their deeper narrative of cosmic duality. The Mayans, across the ocean in Mesoamerica, also gave Mars a prominent place in their cosmology. Unlike the Sumerians or Egyptians, the Mayans developed intricate calendrical systems that integrated Mars's cycles into ritual life. They tracked Mars with astonishing precision, recording its retrograde motions when it appears to move backward in the sky as periods of cosmic disruption. These retrograde phases were associated with warfare, upheaval, and divine conflict. In Mayan mythology, Mars was linked to gods of fire, blood, and war, fitting its fiery appearance. The Dresden Codex, one of the surviving Mayan books, includes tables of Mars's cycles, indicating that it was considered vital to timing rituals and predicting events. To the Mayans, astronomy and religion were one. The planet's behavior was a sacred clock. Mars was not just an omen, but a godlike force whose movements dictated human affairs. Its redness may have been tied to blood sacrifices, rituals of renewal that aligned with its cosmic role. In this sense, Mars for the Mayans was both a celestial guide and a divine participant in their mythic order. Comparing these three civilizations, the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Mayans, reveals remarkable parallels. Each associated Mars with war, blood, or chaos. Each tracked its motions carefully, embedding those cycles into religious or political practices. And each saw Mars not as distant but as present, a god walking across the heavens. The universality of this pattern suggests that Mars's striking appearance left a deep and similar impression on cultures separated by oceans and millennia. One reason for this may be Mars's retrograde motion. Unlike fixed stars, which move predictably, Mars occasionally reverses course in the night sky, looping backward before resuming its path. To ancient eyes, this was baffling. It made Mars seem willful, alive, unpredictable. Civilizations personified this erratic behavior as divine struggle or cosmic drama. The Sumerians saw omens in its reversals, the Egyptians saw Set disrupting order, and the Mayans saw times of war and sacrifice. Retrograde motion gave Mars a mythological role far more complex than other planets. Another reason is its color. While Venus dazzles with brightness and Jupiter dominates with size, Mars alone burns red. Blood, fire, and war are universal symbols, easily mapped onto the crimson star. Cultures interpreted it through their own mythologies, but the core association remained constant. Whether Nergal, Horus, or Mayan war gods, Mars always embodied conflict, energy, and change. The consistency across continents shows how human imagination responds to shared natural phenomena. Yet beyond war and destruction, Mars also symbolized cycles of renewal. For the Sumerians, Nergal ruled over both plague and fertility. For Romans, inheriting from earlier traditions, Mars was a god not only of war but of agriculture, the plow as well as the sword. For the Mayans, Mars's cycles were part of cosmic order, ensuring that even chaos had a role in sustaining balance. This duality mirrors what modern science tells us. Comets and impacts from space can both destroy ecosystems and enrich them with life's building blocks. In myth and science alike, Mars and cosmic wanderers carry both death and creation. The question, then, is whether these civilizations intuited something deeper. Did their myths about Mars as a god of chaos and renewal reflect not just symbolism, but a sense that the heavens are active in shaping life on Earth? When modern astronomers suggest that comets delivered water and organics to early Earth, or that impacts from Mars may have transferred material between planets, they echo an ancient intuition. The sky is not passive. It gives and it takes, just as Mars the god did in myth. The fascination with Mars among the Egyptians, Mayans, and Sumerians shows how deeply humans sought meaning in the heavens. Mars was more than a planet. It was a mirror of human struggle, a symbol of war and survival, and a reminder of cycles larger than ourselves. Today, we study Mars with rovers and spectrometers, searching for microbial life and geological history. Yet, we still call it Mars, inheriting the name from Roman myth. We still imagine it as a place of struggle and possibility, whether as the site of ancient microbes or the future home of human colonies. In this sense, the myths endure. The Sumerians Nergal, the Egyptians Horus and Set, and the Mayans war gods all live on in our scientific quest. Each culture connected Mars to gods because it demanded explanation, and today we do the same, though with science rather than myth. The fascination has never faded, only transformed. Mars continues to be a god of war, chaos, and renewal, not in temples or sacrifices, but in laboratories and spacecraft where humanity now seeks to read the story written in its red dust. The answer then is yes. Cultures like the Egyptians, Mayans, and Sumerians connected Mars to gods and myths because they saw in its fiery light a reflection of the most powerful forces of life: conflict, death, fertility, and rebirth. In doing so, they ensured that Mars would never be just a planet, but a cosmic presence woven into the human story, binding heaven and earth in myth, mystery, and meaning. Future missions, sample return, moon bases, and human colonies. For centuries, Mars has been a distant mystery, but today it is a destination. The discoveries at Chayava Falls, the enrichment of organics in 3I Atlas, and the tantalizing hints of biosignatures across the red planet all point toward one conclusion. The next great step in exploration is not just observation, but presence. Future missions to Mars, whether robotic or human, promise to answer questions that have haunted humanity for generations. Could Mars have once supported life? Does it still harbor it today? And if so, what role will humanity play in shaping the planet's future? The first step is sample return. As advanced as Perseverance and its suite of instruments are, there are limits to what rovers can accomplish on Mars itself. The detection of organic compounds, biosignatures, or isotopic patterns demands levels of precision possible only in Earth's laboratories. That is why the Mars Sample Return mission in development by NASA and the European Space Agency is considered the holy grail of planetary exploration. Perseverance is already caching rock cores in carefully sealed tubes at Jezero Crater, including samples from Chayava Falls. The plan is to retrieve them in the early 2030s, returning them to Earth for detailed analysis. These samples will allow scientists to test hypotheses about Martian life with unprecedented rigor. Microscopes will search for fossilized cells. Isotopic instruments will measure signatures that distinguish biology from geology. And genetic-level techniques, if anything resembling DNA exists, will probe the molecular structure of Martian organics. If life once existed on Mars, even in microbial form, the proof may be found in those rocks. And if it does not, the samples will still reveal Mars's history, climate, and geochemical processes, helping us understand how planets evolve and what conditions are truly necessary for life. But Mars is not the only frontier. The Moon, long considered a stepping stone, is becoming central to the strategy for exploring Mars and beyond. Artemis, NASA's program to return humans to the Moon, aims not just for short visits, but for sustained presence. Lunar bases would allow astronauts to practice living and working on another world, testing technologies for habitats, radiation shielding, and resource utilization. The Moon's proximity, only days away by spacecraft, makes it the perfect training ground. If humanity can learn to survive there, it will be far more prepared for the challenges of Mars, where round-trip journeys take years. Moon bases also serve a strategic purpose. Lunar regolith contains oxygen-bound in minerals, and the Moon's poles hold frozen water in shadowed craters. Extracting these resources could provide air, water, and even rocket fuel. Building the infrastructure to use extraterrestrial resources, known as in situ resource utilization, ISRU, is essential for Mars. Carrying everything from Earth is impossible. Colonies must learn to live off the land. The Moon will teach us how. From lunar bases, the next step is human colonies on Mars. Already, space agencies and private companies are planning for the long-term goal of sending people to the red planet. NASA envisions missions in the 2030s, while SpaceX's Starship program is being developed with Mars colonization explicitly in mind. The challenges are daunting: radiation exposure, psychological strain, dust storms, thin atmosphere, and the need for self-sustaining food, energy, and water systems. Yet the promise is equally profound. A human presence on Mars would transform exploration from remote observation to direct experience. Geologists could study rocks with their own eyes, biologists could test soil in real time, and settlers could begin building a second home for humanity. The significance of human colonies extends beyond science. Colonizing Mars would mark a turning point in history, the first time life from Earth extended its reach permanently to another planet. It would make humanity a multiplanetary species, reducing the risk that a catastrophe on Earth, whether asteroid impact, nuclear war, or climate collapse, could wipe us out entirely. Mars would become not just a laboratory, but an ark, preserving human civilization and perhaps even life itself. Yet colonization raises profound ethical questions. If Mars still harbors microbial life in hidden biospheres, what responsibility do we have to protect it? Should Mars be preserved as a natural laboratory free from contamination, or should humanity settle it as part of its destiny? Some argue that preserving alien life, however simple, should be paramount. Others contend that expansion is inevitable and that coexistence is possible. The tension between exploration and preservation will shape the policies of future missions. The technologies needed for Mars colonies are being developed today. Nuclear power sources for energy, hydroponic and aeroponic systems for food, 3D printing for construction, and closed-loop life support systems are all essential. Radiation shielding may come from burying habitats under Martian soil or using magnetic fields to deflect cosmic rays. Every challenge has a solution, being studied, tested, and refined. In many ways, the process of preparing for Mars is already advancing human technology in ways that benefit Earth, from sustainable agriculture to renewable energy systems. Culturally, the idea of human colonies on Mars continues the fascination ancient civilizations had with the Red Planet. For Sumerians, Egyptians, and Mayans, Mars was a god of war, blood, or chaos. For modern humans, it may become a symbol of resilience, survival, and hope. To live on Mars is to embody the mythic struggle against chaos, to wrest order and life from a harsh and alien environment. It would transform Mars from a symbol in the heavens to a reality under our feet. The narrative of future missions also ties directly to 3 Atlas and other interstellar visitors. If comets deliver life's building blocks across systems, and if Mars once harbored life, then colonizing Mars means entering into that cosmic story directly. Humans on Mars would not just be explorers, but participants in the same processes that shaped planets and seeded life. They would be the inheritors of panspermia, continuing the cosmic journey of life across worlds. Sample return, moon bases, and colonies form a continuum. First, we bring Mars to Earth in tiny pieces, studying its secrets under microscopes. Then we bring ourselves to the moon, learning to survive away from Earth. Finally, we bring humanity to Mars, carrying with us the knowledge, technology, and determination to endure. Each step builds on the last, each step bringing us closer to a future where the question of life beyond Earth is not abstract, but lived. What makes this vision so powerful is its inevitability. The tools are being built, the missions are being planned, the discoveries at Chayava Falls and beyond provide compelling reasons. Humanity has always looked to Mars with fascination. Now, for the first time, we are preparing to go there ourselves, and when we do, the meaning of Mars will change forever. In the end, future missions, sample return, moon bases, human colonies are more than exploration. They are the continuation of a story as old as humanity's gaze at the night sky. The ancients saw Mars as a god, a symbol of war and fate. We see it as a destination, a frontier, and perhaps a second cradle of life. Between myth and science lies continuity. Mars has always been a mirror for human hopes and fears. Soon, it will be a mirror for our presence. And in that moment, Mars will no longer be only the red star of the heavens, but a world alive with human footsteps, laboratories, and the continuation of life's cosmic journey. Closing mystery. Life on Mars is still unproven, but 3i Atlas might remind us life could be universal. For all the discoveries made at Chayava Falls, for all the minerals like vivianite and greigite, for all the oil-dark speckled textures and traces of organics, one truth remains. Life on Mars is still unproven. No rover has photographed a living microbe. No instrument has found DNA. The red planet continues to stand on the threshold between promise and silence. And yet, in the same moment that Mars tempts us with ambiguity, An interstellar visitor like 3A Atlas reminds us of something even more profound, that the chemistry of life is not Earth's alone, that the universe may be rich with seeds waiting for the right soil. That life, while unconfirmed on Mars, could in fact be universal. The mystery begins with absence. Decades of exploration have shown us a Mars of dust storms, frozen deserts, and thin air. Viking's ambiguous experiments in the 1970s, the meteorite ALH-84001 with its debated microstructures, Perseverance's detection of organics all suggest but never confirm. Science advances cautiously, unwilling to leap from maybe to yes. And so, Mars remains a riddle. It looks like it should have been habitable, it shows signs of water and chemistry, yet life remains hidden, elusive, or extinct. But absence is not proof of emptiness. On Earth, microbial life thrives in places once thought impossible, in boiling hot springs, in the acidic waters of Rio Tinto, in rocks miles beneath the surface, and even in the frozen brine of Antarctica's lakes. If Earth's microbes can endure such extremes, Mars may yet harbor hidden biospheres. The lack of direct evidence may simply reflect the limitations of our search. We scratch the surface with rovers, peer from orbit, but we have not yet drilled deep into aquifers or retrieved pristine samples. The silence may not mean lifelessness, but rather that Mars guards its secrets well. This is where 3I Atlas enters the picture, not as proof, but as context. Its enrichment in carbon dioxide and organic compounds demonstrates that the ingredients of life are not confined to Earth or even to the solar system. They form naturally in the cold between stars, they endure in comets, they travel across light years. When 3A Atlas crossed into our skies, it was as if the universe itself sent a reminder: the chemistry you rely on is everywhere. If Mars has not yet revealed life, it does not mean life is rare. It may mean life is inevitable, but subtle, emerging differently on different worlds, hidden in ways we have not yet learned to recognize. The juxtaposition is striking. Mars shows us how hard it is to prove life. 3I Atlas shows us how easy it is for life's ingredients to exist. Between them lies the great mystery of biology. Is life an accident or a rule? If the same organics that form the basis of our DNA and proteins exist in interstellar comets, then the stage is set across the galaxy. Countless planets may be enriched as Earth was, bombarded with organics during their youth. The question is not whether the chemistry is there. It is. But whether planets provide the right conditions to let chemistry awaken into biology. Mars, in its ambiguity, might even be the perfect test case. If we discover fossils of ancient microbes in Martian rocks, it would mean life began twice in one solar system, once on Earth, once on Mars. The odds of universality would skyrocket. If instead we find nothing but complex organics shaped by geology, it would still tell us something essential, that the chemistry is universal, but biology is not guaranteed. Either outcome has cosmic significance, and both outcomes are framed by comets like 3I Atlas, which deliver the raw materials no matter where they go. The closing mystery, then, is not about confirmation alone. It is about interpretation. Even if Mars never had life, the presence of organics in comets, moons, and interstellar dust proves that the building blocks are common. Life could be waiting elsewhere, in Europa's oceans, in Enceladus's plumes, or on a planet orbiting a distant star. The seeds are universal. The soil determines the outcome. Mars may be barren, but the cosmos may still be fertile. Philosophically, this mystery resonates with humanity's oldest stories. Civilizations saw Mars as a god of war, blood, and fate, while comets were seen as omens from the heavens. Today, science reframes those intuitions. Mars embodies struggle, not of empires but of biology against harsh conditions. Comets are not omens but couriers, bearing carbon and water across the void. The myths were not literal, but they were not wrong either. The heavens do shape life. What they once encoded in story, we now decode in spectra and chemistry. There is also humility in this mystery. Humanity craves certainty, but the cosmos resists easy answers. We want Mars to either shout, "Yes, life was here," or whisper, "No, never." Instead, it offers tantalizing fragments, ambiguous signals, and puzzles without solutions. 3I Atlas reminds us that the search is bigger than one planet. Even if Mars refuses to answer, the universe itself through comets, meteors, and interstellar visitors. It says, the chemistry of life is not rare. It is everywhere. What you must learn is whether biology follows. Future missions will push closer to resolution. The Mars Sample Return Project may finally confirm or deny signs of ancient microbes. Europa Clipper and Dragonfly will investigate other worlds that could harbor life. Astronomers will analyze exoplanet atmospheres for biosignature gases, and interstellar objects like 3I Atlas may one day be intercepted directly, sampled for organics that formed beyond our sun. Each mission is part of the same question the one Mars and 3I Atlas frame together. Is life a local accident or a universal law? For now, the closing mystery remains unsolved. Mars tempts us with hints, but no confirmation. 3I Atlas whispers of universality without showing biology. Together, they point to a truth that is larger than either. Life may not be rare, but it may be elusive. It may hide underground, in oceans beneath ice, in atmospheres far away. It may be fragile, or it may be robust. It may have arisen countless times, or only once. And yet, even in uncertainty, there is wonder. The search itself binds humanity to the cosmos. Each rover wheel track in Martian soil, each spectrum captured from a comet, each myth retold around ancient fires, all are part of the same story. We seek to know whether we are alone, and the universe answers in fragments, inviting us to piece them together. Perhaps the final message of 3I Atlas is that life's question cannot be answered by one planet, one comet, or one mission. It must be answered by the totality of exploration, by patience, persistence, and humility. Life on Mars is still unproven, but the comet's chemistry reminds us that the stage is set everywhere. If Earth is one garden, then the galaxy may be full of seeds. Some sprout, some fail, but the sowing is universal. In that sense, 3I Atlas is not just an object, but a symbol. It is the universe reminding us that the story of life is bigger than Earth, bigger than Mars, bigger even than this solar system. Whether or not Mars once lived, the cosmos is alive with possibility. The closing mystery is not a conclusion, but an opening. The realization that the search is only beginning, and the answers may reshape not only our science, but our very place in the universe. Life on Mars remains unproven. But 3I Atlas, carrying organics across the stars, reminds us that life, like the comets themselves, may travel everywhere. And if so, then we are not alone, not exceptional, but participants in a universal story, written in dust and ice, in stars and planets, in chemistry, and perhaps in biology. The cosmos is sowing seeds. The only question is where they bloom.